Government Business Order of the Day number 1, standing in the name of Mrs Finocchiaro, the Integrity Ethics Commissioner, Bill 2025, Serial 46, to move that the bill now be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. I call the next member to speak in the debate. The Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is an important bill for the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker, because integrity has been a strong theme since the CLP came to power 15 months ago, but not necessarily in a good way, Madam Speaker, because the CLP promised a fresh new approach to integrity and transparency for Territorians. And what they failed to say was largely, Madam Speaker, that would involve dishing up half-baked integrity measures or, as with this bill before the House today, eroding our institutions responsible for overseeing and upholding integrity and accountability in the Northern Territory. The Chief Minister, Leah Finocchiaro, has been at pains to say, Madam Speaker, that this new bill, a bill that she effectively sprung on Territorians without any notice or opportunity for comment, insight, feedback, scrutiny, is not about cost cutting. And I say, Madam Speaker, she protests this just a little bit too much, particularly when the report that she recently commissioned into our integrity bodies explicitly says that bringing these bodies together will achieve economies of scale. It was the first and primary justification in that report for undertaking this proposed change, Madam Speaker. Economies of scale. In other words, cost-cutting measures for government, Madam Speaker. As with much of what the CLP does, this proposed new model leaves more questions than answers for Territorians. And why did the Chief Minister undertake this work without telling anyone about it once it was commissioned? Madam Speaker, why did the Chief Minister give absolutely no opportunity for feedback, particularly knowing what concerns Territorians have when it comes to integrity and accountability and what matters most to them, particularly when we're talking about government, Madam Speaker? So why did this bill fail to be sent to the scrutiny committee that the government so much celebrates that they return to the Parliament, Madam Speaker? This is an absolutely an example of irony when an integrity bill is not sent to a scrutiny committee of the Parliament, Madam Speaker. No transparency. And, Madam Speaker, if it wasn't poetic enough, it's an appalling betrayal of Territorians' trust to not send an integrity bill to a scrutiny committee, Madam Speaker. When we talk about the foundations of democracy, integrity is a foundation of that, Madam Speaker. It is a pillar of communities' faith in our public institutions and, might I say, our elected members too, Madam Speaker. It's not about appearances, it's about genuine, transparent accountability. Territorians deserve to know that the government of the day is working for Territorians and not for themselves. Madam Speaker, when it comes to accountability, the CLP are never able to show leadership and set a good example for the rest of the community, for public servants, for businesses and industry, because they are already falling off the rails when it comes to this. Accountability has to start at the top. It has to be action-based, not word-based, because Territorians will judge all of us on our actions in this place. And with that in mind, Madam Speaker, let's examine the Chief Minister's greatest hits when it comes to integrity, transparency and accountability. It's important, Madam Speaker, to put this in context because it explains the absolute scepticism that our Territory Labor team has for this bill and the real reasons that the Chief Minister has plunged it into the parliamentary business. Let's look at some of those examples, Madam Speaker. The Blow report into senior police recruitment and its deliberately limited terms of reference, with Justice Blow hamstrung by what he could inquire into as he was given no powers under the Inquiries Act. How phenomenal is that, Madam Speaker? No scrutiny committee, I've said already. Madam Speaker, a small portion of the government's bills that have been put to this House in the last 15 months, a very small portion and ratio have actually been referred to committees. And definitely not this important game-changing piece of legislation for the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker, but no surprises there. Meanwhile, the CLP government has blocked the opposition and the crossbench members, the non-government members in this parliament, from referring matters to a scrutiny committee. They have chopped and changed and cut and pasted and made it absolutely a tiny split-second moment to be able to provide Territorians with the opportunity to scrutinise important legislation and laws for the Northern Territory. They have made it near impossible, Madam Speaker, to allow this. And then when you do get the opportunity to put scrutiny committee recommendations up for a piece of legislation, Madam Speaker, it's just voted down by the government, who already have the numbers of the day, who hold the numbers on every single committee of the parliamentary structure, Madam Speaker, and they're still frightened to get the scrutiny that Territorians deserve for very much needed and important legislation, Madam Speaker.
Take your seat, please, Opposition Leader. What's your point of order, Member for Goyder?
9, reflection of previous votes. While I do enjoy the constant refresher of previous votes of this Assembly, we're talking about all the times that the votes have happened regarding whether or not something goes to a scrutiny committee. I'm just wondering about that Standing Order 29's applicability here for clarity, because otherwise 35 for relevance to the subject.
Are you suggesting that the previous votes related to ICAC from 2017 to now? Is that what you're suggesting?
Referring to the previous votes where this Assembly moved to not refer this bill or other bills to a scrutiny committee. Applicability of that standing order. Otherwise 35, relevance to subject. We've been 5 minutes in and we're yet to talk about the bill.
I think with respect to Standing Order 29, both sides of this chamber have complained ad nauseum about the lack of scrutiny committee processes over time. I think if you're going to put an end to that now, then that's probably not necessarily in the interest of government or opposition. Is that what you're asking? That
it's the reflection of the previous vote of this Assembly for this piece of legislation.
Look, I'm just going
to... It's the words around it.
I think it's a long stretch. I think the member has not breached Standing Order 29. I just, debate around referrals to scrutiny committees come up incessantly and have done for years and years and years. So I'll let that go. What was your second point? Relevance.
35, relevance to the subject.
No, I'll let that go too, but worth a try. Opposition Leader. Please
Thank
continue.
you, Madam Speaker, for your ruling, because might I remind the member for Goyder, this particular bill didn't even get put to a scrutiny committee, so therefore didn't even come to a vote. So absolutely, Standing Order 29, member for Goyder, is irrelevant in this case. So you're talking about Standing Order 35 relevance. Well, your Standing Order that you just fluffed around and wasted time for the last 2 minutes on this very important bill for Territorians is absolutely irrelevant, because the bill didn't even get a chance to be voted on to then go to scrutiny committee. So maybe you should go back and check the Hansard. I don't know which side you were sitting on. Maybe you were just fiddling around on your computer, ignoring the importance of your duties here in this Parliament, Madam Speaker, which we all have an important duty to make sure the laws of the Northern Territory are made that are fit for purpose, that are made for the best outcomes and impact for Territorians for the better, Madam Speaker. And I really, honestly and earnestly hope that that is why everyone is in this place. All 25 seats, and how diverse the Territory is and how amazing the Territory is and how challenging the Territory can be, that is our job, regardless of you for the government, of the 17 members who, when they vote, member for Goyder, do have the numbers to put a vote to or against the decision that is made by the numbers. To the members of the crossbench, there are 4, and Madam Speaker, to the members of our Labor opposition, to which there are 4. So you don't need to be a rocket scientist to do the numbers, Madam Speaker, and you certainly don't need to waste Parliament's time bringing frivolous standing orders that aren't even relevant to the cause, Madam Speaker, and to the bill at hand. Madam Speaker, when we talk about less than a quarter of the government's legislative agenda has been referred to any committee. This is definitely not a surprise of the government's lack of robustness when it comes to creating Northern Territory law. Madam Speaker, the funding cuts to independent environmental groups to silence their advocacy work is something the CLP proudly hangs their hat on. It is deeply cynical, Madam Speaker, that the CLP government has referred non-controversial pieces of legislation, important pieces of legislation, but non-controversial, like what we've just seen, the tourism and major events legislation, which the Scrutiny Committee has provided a very important report back. Non-controversial, not challenging, not a complex piece of work, pretty much a mechanical and legislative process to change the major events company and the tourism department to create one. And Madam Speaker, the new legislation that is proposed around about police public safety officers, that was not sent to Scrutiny Committee either. A really important piece of community safety and new positions being created in the Northern Territory and an insertion of these positions into legislation. A very important change around the government's agenda that they're driving for community safety, not provided the opportunity to Territorians, not providing the opportunity to stakeholders and allowing that very robust and very important process of a Scrutiny Committee, Madam Speaker. So the growing list of groups and individuals that are attacked by the CLP government for speaking out, for just existing sometimes, Madam Speaker, lawyers, doctors, experts in their field, public servants, unions, trans people. Madam Speaker, the Chief Minister's failure to declare her husband's company directorship in her parliamentary register of members' interests. To Minister Kerle's complete lack of judgment to invite a CLP federal candidate for a photo opportunity during the federal government election to a closed parliamentary government-dominated event for signing for photo ops for a political candidate, Madam Speaker. To the Attorney General's sidestepping of proper recruitment processes and refusing independent advice to make a captain's pick for the director of the legal aid role here in the Northern Territory, and the Attorney General's failure to disclose her family connection to a person before the courts and subsequent media commentary on that court matter. To also the Attorney General, Minister Boothby's refusal to release a briefing that she apparently relied on to sidestep governance concerns regarding the Darwin Waterfront Corporation. Minister for Multicultural Affairs' inadequate management of his own conflicts of interest when it comes to grants, Madam Speaker.
What's your point of order?
35, relevance to subject. If we want to do a greatest hits of integrity, we can spend 6 hours going through Labor's failures. Otherwise, we can talk about the bill before us today, maybe.
Look, I'm going to give the opposition leader some latitude here, listing possible misconduct or possible corruption is at your own peril. I mean, if this is what you want to do, then I'm sure the government can stand up and do the same. But please make this relevant to the legislation, opposition leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the member for Goyder is invested in this. He's listening carefully, but this bill is entitled Integrity and Ethics Commission Bill, Madam Speaker. This is a phenomenal change for the Northern Territory, one that I had honestly and earnestly hoped would make our commission processes even better. But the detail in this bill, Madam Speaker, falls flat for that, Madam Speaker. When this was first introduced, I sit on the Standing Orders Committee for the ICAC, Madam Speaker, so I was able and privy and privileged and honoured to be able to receive firsthand from Inspector of the ICAC the briefing on the report, as did my fellow committee members, which obviously the committee's changed, people now. But previously, the committee members, we received a briefing, and I thought, wow, this is going to be a really important step for the Northern Territory, particularly when we talk about some of the concerns that have been raised year after year about the ICAC. So I think our job in that committee is to really keep an oversight on the ICAC and to get as much information as possible as committee members. And the inspector report was provided an in-person briefing. So I learned more and more about this process through the committee procedure, which I am grateful for. But when I saw the bill and what it has landed in and with, I think it is highly relevant for, and I hope the member for Goyder has done his research and actually looked at the bill, not just relying on what the government's telling him to say or to raise, but actually do the homework, Madam Speaker, because it is completely relevant when we're talking about our public institutions, but particularly our leaders, because the condensation of these 4 integrity commissions is what this bill is about. So if the member for Goyder doesn't think that's relevant, then goodness gracious, I don't know that any other debate in this place will be, because we're talking about the Integrity and Ethics Commission of the Northern Territory, which is being sought to establish through this particular legislation. Originally, the inspector spoke about the modelling of the about the ACT, the Australian Capital Territory's Human Rights Commission, and the changes that they made there. And we're a small jurisdiction. We're also a territory. We get that. There's very different kind of challenges in both the ACT and the NT, but I understand that that model has been quite a successful model for the ACT. So I was honestly, Madam Speaker, excited about thinking of that quite progressive model of the ACT, perhaps then being reframed and redesigned for the Northern Territory's purpose, being fit for purpose for the Northern Territory through the introduction of legislation like what is before the House, the Integrity and Ethics Commission Bill. But when the Chief Minister, Madam Speaker, says she is smashing the Territory's integrity bodies together without any additional funding, support or resourcing, it is important to consider the track record on transparency and accountability by the CLP. And with no evidence to the contrary and no opportunity, Madam Speaker, to properly scrutinise this bill publicly, we can only surmise that there are 2 reasons that this new model is being rushed through the Northern Territory Parliament. 1, a cost-saving measure. The Chief Minister's own strategic report clearly states in relation to this model, and I quote, the first and most obvious benefit is the economies of scale, Madam Speaker, despite the Chief Minister's claim otherwise. And the secondly, Madam Speaker, and I believe a more sinister reason, that this new model is a clear attempt to erode the independence of our integrity agencies here in the Northern Territory. And we just have to look at the evidence before us, Madam Speaker. No additional resources, no costings provided, not even waiting for a budget process, because apparently they care so much about the Territory's economy, but then can make huge decisions like this without a budget process. No single commissioner appointed by the government to oversee each integrity arm of the government except one. No clarity around managing conflicts or how this will be how work will be prioritised, and the capacity for resources to be shuffled out of the area, Madam Speaker, of the new Commission to another area of the Commission, making it easy for one area to be starved of resources and unable to function effectively without proper resourcing by this government, Madam Speaker, as well as failing to tell anyone that the Chief Minister had commissioned this report into the Territory's integrity agencies and then failing to consult with Territorians. The Chief Minister is now failing to be upfront and honest about her reasons for doing so. But, Madam Speaker, our Labor team is happy to keep laying out the reasons for Territorians since the Chief Minister won't do it herself. And we believe, as the opposition, there has been a number of concerns raised about how this new one-stop integrity shop will impact the functions and effectiveness of individual agencies to do their work effectively and independently. And first of all, Madam Speaker, I will start with the ICAC, the Independent Commission Against Corruption. In September 2024, the ICAC inspector released a special report into ICAC which found the following notes. 1. The Office of the ICAC had difficulties recruiting sufficient staff to perform its functions effectively. 2. Staff morale and job satisfaction were low, largely due to matters relating to the former Commissioner and his subsequent leave. And 3. Key performance indicators, or KPIs, were not being met and no examinations had taken place during the reporting period. So, Madam Speaker, the inspector pointed out clearly that this was in no way a criticism of the ICAC staff who had been operating under very difficult circumstances. But these are very serious concerns, and there is absolutely no sense in smashing the ICAC in with other agencies, other integrity agencies that will go to addressing the deeper roots of the causes of the issues that the inspector reported on in September 2024. Madam Speaker, in 2024, the Northern Territory ICAC endorsed the national 12 fundamental principles of anti-corruption commissions, and it had called for adequate funding, legislative protections and operational independence, Madam Speaker, through the adoption of these principles. A new key principle around strengthening protections for whistleblowers and witnesses. This principle seeks to ensure a person who refers information or gives evidence to a commission should be immune from any criminal, civil, administrative or disciplinary liability, and from the enforcement against them, the contractual rights of remedies for doing so. During estimates this year, Madam Speaker, in June 2025, I asked the Chief Minister specifically about strengthening whistleblower protections, and she indicated that this would be part of the work that she was doing and that she was going to look at, and I quote, what is working well, what is not, and how we can make sure we have a strong, high-functioning ICAC into the future that Territorians can get behind and have confidence in, end quote from the Chief Minister from estimates this year. So, Madam Speaker, there is absolutely no provision in this current legislation that strengthens whistleblower protections, which is what the Chief Minister said she would look at. She said she would do the work on this very important question, Madam Speaker, and nor does it align more broadly with the national endorsed fundamental principles. Furthermore, when I asked the Chief Minister about this during estimates this year in June, she said that this might well be the case. Madam Speaker, clearly not. In theory, this should be a turning point for ICAC, which has struggled through some difficult years since its establishment. That's no secret, unfortunately, Madam Speaker. It should be an opportunity for the ICAC to reset and to get back to its core functions, which it has struggled to perform effectively over the past couple of years. And for example, Madam Speaker, the last annual report highlighted 2 corruption risks that the ICAC are very keen to focus on themselves, and that is the recycling of former NT public service employees with a history of discipline breaches and renewal of temporary employment contracts that don't comply with recruitment rules. These are both important focus areas that should help to These are both important focus areas, Madam Speaker, that will help to ensure public servants do have faith in recruitment practices here in the Northern Territory, because we've seen some very dramatic and very public examples, Madam Speaker, of where that has fallen flat and where it has really made a rift with people who are working in their jobs day in and day out in the public service and have issues with some of the recruitment that is happening in their agencies. Madam Speaker, it seems that this new model will be another period of upheaval for the ICAC. More ground lost with little obvious gain. And I do call on the Chief Minister to give Territorians some assurance that ICAC staff will be given the time and the resources to get back to their core functions for the benefit of all Territorians, looking at the key focus areas against corruption. Madam Speaker, the Ombudsman has been provided with additional statutory responsibilities, including the OPCAT oversight, judicial complaints handling and police oversight, yet it has only seen a very slight funding increase. We know the vast majority of matters coming through the Ombudsman door relate to police and corrections at the moment. The Ombudsman's office staff have strong knowledge and expertise in working in these areas, and with the NT Police Force and the corrections staff, as well as other corrections department, as well as other key agencies. They have built strong and constructive relationships. There needs to be a guarantee that a specialist staff are employed effectively and in line with their skills and experience within this new super commission. Madam Speaker, our Labor opposition also put on the record our deep concern that the CLP is not funding the Ombudsman's Office to perform its mandated function in line with the OPCAT, which stands for the Optional Protocol to the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhumane and Degrading Treatment or Punishment. The Chief Minister, Madam Speaker, needs to assure Territorians that this work, essentially ensuring Territorians in our institutions are not being subject to torture or ill treatment, is being resourced properly and will continue to be resourced properly under this new super commission or mega agency. Madam Speaker, the next area, the Health and Community Services Complaints Commission. The Chief Minister's Strategic Review report makes it clear that the Health and Community Services Complaints Commission is under-resourced and unable to carry out the full extent of its statutory mandate. It says that the Commission requires targeted resourcing, structural clarity and legislative support. It is very hard to see how any of this will be completed under the new model, Madam Speaker. In saying this, it is important to remember that the HCESCC was originally spun off from the Ombudsman, which happened a few years ago for a number of reasons. Workload, concerns about conflicts of interest, the functions of two new officers being incompatible, and to improve public confidence in health. All of these reasons, Madam Speaker, remain critical, and they are real concerns for this new smashed together model presented to the House in this legislation by the Chief Minister today. Madam Speaker, except rather than two agencies, there will be three currently independent and separately functioning agencies smashed in together, bringing with it all of the same issues: the workload, conflicts of interest, how that is managed, incompatibility of key performance indicators or key focus areas, and an erosion of public confidence in gaining access or providing information without having to worry for their own jobs or positions. Madam Speaker, we will not be supporting this legislation in its current form, and this is because we do not believe that the one-stop shop integrity approach will actually make these bodies, who are very important to the functioning of the Northern Territory, more effective. In fact, we do hold the grave concerns around a number of key issues that I've already touched on, but I will reiterate, Madam Speaker. The erosion of independence. Madam Speaker, the point of having separate and distinct statutory bodies is to better ensure and preserve their independence and minimise the likelihood of them coming in undue influence. The Territory is a small place, we all know that. I believe there's 2 degrees of separation, not 6. So bringing these agencies together under one commissioner blurs those clear decision-making lines and removes their independence. This is a deliberate erosion of independence, Madam Speaker, which does damage reputation and credibility in the eyes of Territorians. And it is unclear how much power the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO position, who will be a public servant under the PSEMA, will have over their decision-making and prioritisation when it comes to the work of the new Commission, Madam Speaker. That still remains a concern. The greatest risk, Madam Speaker, our Labor opposition believes for the bill at hand is the managing of conflicts of interest in this new body. The Commissioner will be given significant and far-reaching powers and responsibilities across 4 distinct integrity bodies. The likelihood of conflicts arising are significant here in the Territory. Madam Speaker, multiple conflicts of interest having to be managed at any one time by the Commissioners are significant, and we do think this is going to be a real risk. And it is not clear how those conflicts will be managed or disclosed to the general public, to Territorians, to the community, to have faith and confidence that these conflicts of interest are being managed properly and they're being managed well. There's no detail around that, Madam Speaker. It is a concern that when a conflict arises for the Commissioner, whoever is appointed on an interim basis to oversee the relevant matter does not have the same level of vetting as the Commissioner position themselves. They only have to be out of the public service for 12 months. That's the only criteria. So even if they had, Madam Speaker, a 20-year career as a public servant and developed strong relationships and strong networks in their time serving as a public servant, they could still be in a position to investigate matters related to their previous workplace. We have many more specific questions related to conflicts of interest in the debate on this bill, Madam Speaker, which we'll be raising in the consideration in detail. Transparency of appointments, Madam Speaker. Principle 11 of the 12 fundamental principles of Australian Anti-Corruption Commission says the following, and I quote, "The process for the appointment of integrity commissioners impacts on the community's perception of anti-corruption commission independence. Commissioner appointments should be made on the basis of merit following an open and transparent appointment process. Selection should be measured against publicly available criteria with an independent panel putting forward a short list of suitable applicants to the relevant minister for appointment. Merit should be the dominant consideration in selection." End quote. Madam Speaker, we can call on the Chief Minister to explain how her CLP government will ensure that appointments to positions in the new Integrity and Ethics Commission, particularly the Commissioner role and the Oversight Inspector, are merits-based, not mates-based, which we know is in the CLP DNA. Madam Speaker, the Blow report raised some very pertinent issues that should also be applied to this new proposed body around having very transparent and clear recruitment policies. The role of the Commissioner, the Assistant Commissioner roles and the Inspector role should not be a captain's pick. There should be an absolute and utter accountability and transparency around these important appointments and positions. This isn't just something that this is not something that this government has a good track on, Madam Speaker, and hence the relevance of the point made from the member for Goyder earlier. The Chief Minister, Madam Speaker, needs to step out very clearly how these appointments will be made and what vetting is undertaken to ensure the best person, the most skilled and the most qualified person, Madam Speaker, is appointed. The lack of clarity of roles and responsibilities, Madam Speaker. Chief Minister Finocchiaro needs to explain how roles and responsibilities within the new Super Commission will be defined and clarified to staff, and how do they know what is expected of them and what skills and training to perform the functions and the duties and the responsibilities and the tasks that they are being asked to perform in this very important role. There is a genuine risk, Madam Speaker, that staff will be pulled in all directions. It won't be clear on their priorities, or they will be expected to manage shifting priorities, given this new Super Commission will be taking on the already overburdened, under-resourced workload of each of the individual agencies being smashed together in the Super Commission. Madam Speaker, there is no clarity around how workload priorities will be set. This is a huge concern for us in the Labor opposition. Again, each of these current separate bodies have significant workloads already before them. None is less important than the other, Madam Speaker. I do want to stress that. But we do know that the situation where workloads will be smashed together and decision will be made about how that workload is prioritised. And we absolutely hope it is not going to be based on money and resources. Madam Speaker, there is a real risk of critical functions that will continue to be under-resourced and overlooked for other functions. While some functions may be streamlined, they are largely administrative rather than any that relate to examinations and inspections or investigations. That workload doesn't lessen under the model, and rather than addressing it, it potentially creates confusion and overlap of the risk of the investigations dropping through the cracks because no one has particular responsibility of a certain function. Madam Speaker, the Chief Minister's strategic review warns that this model needs to be very carefully transition to ensure staff are clear on their roles and how to prioritise workloads, that there are clear conflict of interest processes and systems, and processes are harmonised and not working against each other. The ability to move resources from one area to another without justification, Mr Deputy Speaker, is extremely concerning also. And in the strategic review, Mr McClintock makes it very clear that implementing the recommendation model will require careful transition planning and sustained engagement with affected officers and key stakeholders to ensure continuity of operations. And where is that planning work, Mr Deputy Speaker? What time frame is the government aiming for? How is it being communicated to the current staff of those bodies? And how are they being supported through any proposed significant transition? There is just no clarity on how this transition will be managed well. Mr Deputy Speaker, this is a significant piece of legislation that will bring about significant change in the ways that matters to Territorians when it comes to integrity and ethics, and which are overseen across the many government agencies that we have here in the Territory. We know there is massive concerns for Territorians around this management. And we hear it often, Madam Speaker. Territorians have a high degree of cynicism about transparency and accountability when it comes to this government, which absolutely the Labor opposition shares. Mr Deputy Speaker, our job is to ensure that we have a system of oversight that functions well, that is transparent, that is effective. People deserve to know that when they have a genuine issue around how services are run here in the Territory, how they are being treated by government agencies, or a concern about undue influence in government decisions, there is an effective body that they can turn to, and that those issues are investigated and addressed properly. And it is hard to believe, Mr Deputy Speaker, that this particular bill in its current form will provide confidence of a super agency that will be able to perform the roles that it's expected to do well. For the Territory, it looks too big, too unwieldy, and there are too many conflicts of interest risks in that small jurisdiction like ours to clearly provide a proposal of integrity and ethics. And there's too little clarity, Mr Deputy Speaker, around how the body, the Commission, will manage its vast workload within its existing budget. Mr Deputy Speaker, we call on the Chief Minister to commit to a 12-month report back to Parliament in relation to the implementation of this super agency, how it's functioning and whether it is achieving any of the government's stated goals. Territorians deserve this at the very least, Mr Deputy Speaker, the level of transparency around matters of ethics and integrity. And once again, we see the Chief Minister's approach and her leadership, it's my way or the highway, that mentality of get out of the way and do what I say, Mr Deputy Speaker, which is a clear disrespect of the expertise and the skills that are here in the Territory. This was supposed to be an opportunity for positive reform. This was supposed to be a way to bring integrity to the ICAC and the processes that the ICAC operates, and the support of the staff and the resourcing of the staff here in the Northern Territory. It was supposed to be a constructive way forward, Mr Deputy Speaker, change that is lasting and better for Territorians in the short, medium and long term. But it is not that, Mr Deputy Speaker, not in its current form, and the CLP has really dropped the ball and missed the opportunity to make this bill better, because again, they think they know better than everybody else, rather than putting out the opportunity for feedback and constructive input into important laws and changes that affect all Territorians, not just the 17 of members of government, Mr Deputy Speaker, but all Territorians. Our Labor opposition team will be seeking to scrutinise this bill to the best of our ability, because that's what Territorians expect, that we will do our job, and we definitely will, in great detail during the consideration detail, because we have not had the opportunity provided by the Chief Minister to have the open format which the public definitely deserves and our stakeholders and expertise definitely deserve to have input into this bill. Without consultation, Mr Deputy Speaker, again, this is a true opportunity that has been missed to make laws that make the Territory better. And the questions, Mr Deputy Speaker, remain many, and the answers small or silent. We will not be supporting the bill in its current form. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Leader of the Opposition. Deputy Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker, and I rise to make my contribution about this bill. But before I get started, Mr Deputy Speaker, I just want to talk about a few things I just heard that the Leader of the Opposition spoke about. She mentioned that the CLP have dropped the ball and I think they know better. Madam Mr Speaker, this report was done by McNamara and Maley. These are two very renowned and very senior people in Australia in relation to this, Madam Speaker. So if she's trying to say and to rewrite history that we know better than anyone else, well, the two people who wrote this and authored this report, Mr Deputy Speaker, are very highly rated people and have been around a long time. And Madam Speaker, Mr Deputy Speaker, I think that they are certainly the people who have the criteria and the credentials to be able to write this report. Madam Speaker, the Leader of Opposition spoke just about it being a half-baked integrity bill. Madam Speaker, we should look at history. Why are we here? Why are we here in this situation to have to rewrite the ICAC, Madam Speaker? The Clintock and Maley reports, in their reports, and this is their words, the ICAC reputation had been damaged and its standing needed to be rebuilt. So the reputation had been damaged, Madam Speaker. And I don't want to run through the whole history, but it was damaged and the reputation was destroyed under Labor's watch, Madam Speaker. Under Labor's watch. Madam Speaker, I remember in estimates when we were talking about funding to that particular body and how the Commissioner at the stage said the Labor had cut the funding year on year, which didn't allow them to go and do the work they wanted to do. So for the opposition to come in here and say about funding and how we haven't funded it correctly, Madam Speaker, the previous government, they cut the funding.
While I may have had day surgery, I'm Deputy Speaker.
Deputy, sorry, Deputy Speaker. I'll take that on board. So, Deputy Speaker, so really we're here because the previous Labor government, which the Leader of the Opposition was part of, she was a minister in that government, Mr Deputy Speaker. So we're here because the previous Labor government failed Territorians. They failed to deal with the ICAC. They cut the funding. Mr Deputy Speaker, that's why we're here today, to go and fix this problem, because the Clintock and Maley review said the reputation had been damaged and its standing needed to be rebuilt. Mr Deputy Speaker, she spoke about economy for scale and it's about costs. Well, Madam Speaker, the previous government have got no credibility when it comes to spending money. That's why we've got almost a $15 billion debt, Madam Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I'll get that right. I promise by the end of it. So we're here this is about spending taxpayers' money wisely. That's the bottom line. We're here to make sure that we do have the Integrity Commission and we do it in a way that taxpayers' money is spent wisely. We know that the previous Labor government completely messed it up when it comes to spending taxpayers' money. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, there's so many examples. We've got the shade structure, we've got the art gallery, we've got the flyover, we've got the above-ground, underground car park, we've got the $12 million grandstand, we've got the $35 million that was paid to some juveniles, which the previous Labor government instructed their lawyers to suppress the information because they didn't want the information to get out. So when it comes to funding and credibility about, it's about cost-cutting measures, we know the previous Labor government completely failed Territorians. Madam Deputy Speaker, that's why we're here today, to try and make sure that the Territory can rebuild the economy. We're going here to keep the community safe and we're going to restore our lifestyle. She went on to talk about the Scrutiny Committee and how it didn't go to that. Again, I'll give a quick lesson, Mr Deputy Speaker. The previous Labor government cut the Scrutiny Committee. They got rid of it. They brought it in the first term and then they got rid of it. So I think it's a bit rich for the opposition leader to come here and say, oh, it's not going to the Scrutiny Committee, a committee they cut. she talked about how almost impossible, and we rushed it through Parliament. Mr Deputy Speaker, we are following the process of Parliament. We haven't rushed it through. This is the process of bringing legislation in, sitting on the notice table, doing your job is going out and speaking to the community about it, coming back and then debating the bill. This is the process of Parliament. This is how the Westminster system works. So there is no rushing the bill. We have simply followed the procedures. The same procedures the Leader of the Opposition did for 8 years when they were in government. And I must admit they completely failed their government. That's why they're in opposition. But we've simply just followed the procedures of Parliament as per the standing orders and how it gets done in this place. Mr Deputy Speaker, this bill delivers a long overdue reform to the Northern Territory's Integrity Act architecture. It modernises governance and restores public confidence in response to the independent filings of the McClintock and Harley Review. Mr Deputy Speaker, it's a responsible bill. It's certainly a transparent bill. Again, I want to bring to the attention of the House this document, and I'll call it the Restoring Integrity to Government, which is tabled on the 30th November 2016 by the previous Labor government. And I'll just read the opening statement. And this is signed by the Leader of the Opposition. Territorians want and deserve a government they can trust. An open, accountable and transparent government is essential for that trust to exist. So we're talking about a government they can trust. And unfortunately, under the previous Labor government, through this ICAC debacle, the Territorians lost trust in the ICAC and lost trust in the government, Mr Deputy Speaker. So we are here following the procedures of Parliament to get this fixed, to make sure that the Territorians have confidence in the ICAC and in the Integrity Commission, to ensure that if there's an issue, they've got a body which they can report to, unlike the previous Labor government, which cut the funding year on year. This bill responds to directly what Territorians have been demanding for years, Mr Deputy Speaker, a system they can trust. For too long, confidence has been eroding in the ICAC and the integrity. The previous Labor government, when they brought their document in 2016, Restoring to Integrity, they started off on a bar, and Mr Deputy Speaker, it just went downhill very quickly, into resulting in only 4 of them left government because they weren't open, they didn't listen to their own document, they didn't provide a government that they could trust. Since the establishment of ICAC in 2018, there have been well-documented challenges and a weakening of that public standing. The review made it crystal clear. It was damaged, the reputation, it needs to be rebuilt. We all remember the most shocking example, Mr Deputy Speaker, when the member for Gorgia purchased shares in a liquor wholesale supplying Alice Springs 2 months before Labor lifted alcohol bans. 2 months. And what followed next? 180 domestic violence call-out in the first week, 82 reports of neglect, 7 reports of child exploitation of children. Mr Deputy Speaker, this is a clear conflict of interest with devastating consequences, and Territorians were rightly outraged. The member for Gorgia made money out of misery, and Territorians, like I said, 180 domestic violence call-outs in Alice Springs. Territorians watch the government unable to manage conflicts, unable to maintain standards, unwilling or unable to uphold integrity when it mattered most. Mr Deputy Speaker, even if there was a demonstration of why modern conflict of interest works, this is it, Mr Deputy Speaker. This is an example of conflict of interest. The framework is essential, and that's what this bill does. It provides us that framework. In July 2025, the Leah Finocchiaro government commissioned the comprehensive independent review into the structural models for statutory integrity, and it was led by Mr McIndoff and Harley KC. These are 2 of the most respected integrity experts in Australia. The report found the current model was fragmented, public reputation had been damaged, administrative arrangements were inefficient, structural design was outdated. Continuing the existing system would lead to suboptimal results. Most importantly, the review made one thing absolutely clear: doing nothing wasn't an option. The government accepted the recommendations in full. We tabled the report in Parliament. We published it online. We briefed all acting integrity stakeholders. This is a transparency of the highest order, and it's what Territorians deserve, Mr Deputy Speaker. The bill implements the review's recommendations in full. The new Integrity and Ethics Commission will bring together the functions of the ICAC, the Ombudsman, the Information Commissioner and the Health and Community Services Complaints Commission under one modern integrity framework. Each function remains fully independent but structurally supported. The establishment of the Office of the Integrity and Ethics Commissioner, a new agency led by a CEO providing shared corporate services, consolidated staffing, consistent governance. It replaces the fragmented system that we inherited from the previous Labor government. The new Integrity and Oversight Inspector, an independent oversight officer responsible for the Commissioner, the Commissioner's Office, the Auditor General and the Auditor General's Office, and adds another layer of oversight that previously didn't exist. A robust conflict of interest system was crucial and ensures conflicts are identified, conflicts are managed, acting officers are appointed where needed. Exactly the type of framework missing when the previous or the member for Gorges conflicts caused territory-wide harm all through Alice Springs. Acting appointments remain in place to ensure that there's certainty for Territorians. The review identified structural issues that had been accumulated for years: overlapping jurisdictions, multiple small agencies duplicating effort, inconsistent corporate support, difficulty maintaining specialised staff. These problems were preventable, they were predictable, and they were left unaddressed by the previous Labor government. Territorians deserve better than that, Mr Deputy Speaker. This bill has gone out into the public, Mr Deputy Speaker. Two senior experts have given us some information. We've followed that report. It's been tabled, it's online, it's been transparent. And again, I don't think Labor can lecture anyone on integrity. They lifted alcohol bans against the advice of peak bodies, the police, even our own federal MP. They had a minister who personally invested in liquor wholesalers supplying these very communities. Madam Speaker, Labor has no credibility when it comes to integrity. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Minister. Member for Johnston.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise today to speak on the Integrity and Ethics Commissioner Bill. Very pleased to stand to speak on this bill today, but I speak with great concern. This bill fundamentally reshapes our integrity system here in the Northern Territory. We have heard in this chamber that this bill is the answer to the Territory's unique needs as a small jurisdiction with complex integrity challenges. But, Mr Deputy Speaker, it's because the Territory is so small that we need the strongest possible independent integrity bodies and conflict of interest management policies. We need them precisely because we are so small, not despite it. Being a small jurisdiction is not an excuse to give up on integrity. If anything, we must fight to protect it. But this bill, Mr Deputy Speaker, does the opposite. I'm sure every single one of us in this chamber are deeply committed to integrity, to ethical practice and to addressing corruption. We're all deeply familiar with the problems that we face here in the Territory, with the history of ICAC and the lack of confidence the community has had in this body. This moment now should be a welcome moment. We could be here debating a bill which will actually address these issues and strengthen our integrity agencies here in the Territory. But, Mr Deputy Speaker, that's not what we're doing. To help inform good lawmaking, I hope the government would refer this bill to their Legislative Scrutiny Committee, the committee, as we all know, that's set up precisely to examine a bill to say whether or not it will work to achieve its outcomes, to its purposes, and to help inform all of us here as lawmakers. But because, ironically, the government refused to refer this bill to the Scrutiny Committee, and because there was a very short time frame to reflect on and analyse this bill, I established a community scrutiny forum and invited integrity experts, stakeholders and concerned Territorians to make submissions. The responses from integrity experts across Australia, organisations and community members here in the Northern Territory was unequivocal. This bill should not pass in this form. Mr Deputy Speaker, surely we can do better. We all know that our integrity bodies need reform, but we need to make the right decisions now, informed by real expertise to avoid further problems down the road. And when we have an opportunity, as we do now, to fix something which we all want and need, let's take that opportunity and let's get it right. Mr Deputy Speaker, the Community Scrutiny Forum received submissions reviewing and providing advice on the Integrity and Ethics Commissioner Bill from from Australia's leading integrity and transparency organisations and experts, including Transparency International, the Centre for Public Integrity, the Australian Democracy Network, and former Commonwealth Ombudsman and Chair of Fairer Future, Alan Asher. The forum also received submissions from local organisations representing Territorians who use the integrity bodies that are currently being condensed in this bill: NAJA, the NT Mental Health Coalition and the NT Lived Experience Network. Mr Deputy Speaker, integrity experts are not our opponents. They're not raising concerns because they're anti-government or because they're anti-CLP or trying to score political points. They have no political agenda here. Their job, indeed their entire purpose, is to help us get this right. They are offering decades of experience free of charge to ensure that we build a system that protects every single Territorian. Why on earth would we not listen to that? Why would we reject advice from the very people whose mission it is to strengthen good governance and prevent past mistakes from being repeated? These experts are not warning us because they want to embarrass the government. They're warning us because, in their professional view, this bill will fail, and because they want to help us avoid these failures before they hurt real people. And before anyone says interstate experts don't understand the territory, integrity systems are not about geography. They're about good governance. These people understand integrity systems, and we here in this chamber understand the Northern Territory. When we bring those strengths together, Territorians get the best outcome. We should welcome that advice, not dismiss it, because if we take it seriously, we have a genuine opportunity to build an integrity system that is robust, that's trusted, that's fit for purpose, and that's truly worthy of the Territorians that we represent. Their guidance gives us a chance to get this right together. Mr Deputy Speaker, every single submission that we received opposed this bill or raised serious concerns about both its design and its consequences. Concerns were raised about excessive concentration of power, built-in conflicts of interest, loss of specialist expertise, repeating past failures, threats to the Auditor-General's independence, harm to vulnerable people, weak, insufficient oversight, and the removal of independent statutory officers. These concerns are being raised by Australia's leading experts in integrity and by organisations here on the ground who support people to navigate the very systems this bill proposes to condense. Ignoring their advice and passing this bill will do a disservice to the people we represent. Mr Deputy Speaker, I seek leave to table the submissions received and to the report from the Community Scrutiny Forum.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted.
For those watching at home, these submissions and the report, as well as information about the Community Scrutiny Forum and a short summary of the findings of that forum, are available on my website for anyone to read. And I also note that the summary report was sent to every member of this chamber yesterday to help inform the debate today. Mr Deputy Speaker, this bill will make accountability harder for vulnerable Territorians to achieve. Who needs the ICAC? Who needs the Ombudsman and the Health Complaints Commission most? The Ombudsman is where vulnerable Territorians go with complaints about government agencies when they feel powerless and unheard. For example, prisoners who have experienced assault in prison. The ICAC is where public servants calling out corruption go when they are brave enough to speak out and risk their careers. The Health Complaints Commission is where vulnerable Territorians seeking accountability after unacceptable experiences in our healthcare system turn when something has gone terribly wrong. These are the people who depend on these bodies working well. They're on the front line of bearing the consequences if we weaken our integrity framework, but weakening it will not only harm them, it will harm all of us. I want to highlight some of the key advice from the submissions we received because I believe this is guidance that will help all of us make better, stronger law for Territorians. In regards to what the bill prescribes in terms of structural separation and institutional expertise, Transparency International said, each agency's function is profoundly different from each other, although they may require investigative and support staff with similar skill sets. Each requires its own institutional culture, its own risk appetite, professional expertise and independent profile. They warn that critically this bill creates a single point of failure in the integrity system where compromise, incapacity or poor performance of one individual affects all four accountability mechanisms simultaneously. Without assistant commissioners providing operational leadership for each function, there is substantial risk of diluting the anti-corruption mandate, as routine complaints and administrative reviews consume the Commissioner's attention and resources that should be devoted to corruption detection and prevention. It risks blurring lines when matters overlap, creating confusion about which statutory framework applies. And in addition, the workload implications for one Commissioner are substantial, even with supporting staff. Transparency International also highlighted a further concern, which is that one of the review's essential recommendations was separating the functions of the quasi-judicial decision-making performed by the Commissioner and the public sector management performed by a CEO. However, the bill provides minimal legislative speculation of this critical role. It includes no provisions regarding CEO appointment process, eligibility criteria, terms and conditions, specific statutory powers and functions, or relationship with the Commissioner. Mr Deputy Speaker, on the lack of scrutiny and democratic process, which we have heard about in this chamber already, Alan Asher, ex-Commonwealth Ombudsman and from Fairer Future, said, as Justine Davis rightly noted in Parliament, it is astounding that the government did not refer this bill to the Scrutiny Committee for oversight before introducing it. The review itself involved no public consultation. The government intends to pass this bill today, allowing minimal time for public input or parliamentary examination. The bill is an extraordinary concentration of power that deserves the most thorough examination possible, not a rushed debate and refusal of proper scrutiny. And on this same matter, Naja stated, the report recognised the need for targeted and extensive legislative amendments, careful transition planning and sustained engagement with affected officers and key stakeholders to ensure continuity of operations. Despite this, the bill was introduced 2 months after the report and was not referred to the Parliamentary Scrutiny Committee. And despite the NT's regulation framework recognising the importance of public consultation, there's been no public consultation process or any opportunity for affected communities, complainants or representatives to assess and inform the legislative design and the transitional arrangements. The absence of transparent, inclusive consultation risks further undermining public confidence in a restructure that is intended to rebuild trust and increases the risk of unintended operational and governance consequences during and after transition. And Naja also went on to say that we urge the NT government to pause, consult and co-design an integrity framework that reflects the lived realities, the rights and expectations of all Territorians, and to ensure that any reform strengthens, not erodes, the mechanisms intended to safeguard them. On the issue of consolidation of power and conflicts of interest, Alan Asher said, consolidating 4 distinct statutory offices into a single commissioner raises serious concerns about independence, conflict of interest, loss of specialisation and concentration of power. And the Australian Democracy Network said compromised independence of the inspector's staff, while the Integrity and Ethics Oversight Inspector is legally not subject to direction by any person, the inspector's staff structure undermines their operational independence. The staff consists of persons employed in an agency who are merely made available by the Chief Executive Officer of the agency under arrangement with the inspector. This reliance on staff seconded from government agencies which are subjects of the Commissioner's and Inspector's oversight introduces a structural dependence on the very entities that the Inspector is mandated to invest. The Centre for Public Integrity stated that the government claims that the Inspector can manage these inevitable conflicts through a built-in mechanism. This approach, however, relies on the Commissioner to self-identify any conflicts and report them. This kind of self-accountability is not a reliable way to overcome the inevitable array of conflicts. For this reason, this super commission is likely to lead to actual or perceived conflicts of interest that undermine the ability of the integrity system to secure public trust in government. The Centre for Public Integrity emphasised that any legislative reform to the integrity system must preserve an independent anti-corruption commission. To work effectively, this NTICAC must have suitable oversight. Effective oversight requires more than oversight by an inspector. It also requires a joint parliamentary committee that plays an important role in the appointment, funding and general oversight of these commissions. This is recognised in Principle 12 of the Fundamental Principles of Australian Anti-Corruption Commissions. The bill also poses risks to vulnerable people and lived experience communities, and the Northern Territory Mental Health Coalition said that for people with mental health concerns, particularly those living with psychosocial disability, trauma histories or cognitive impairments, this consolidation may create confusion about where and how to make a complaint. Apprehension that a health-related concern could become a more serious or punitive matter, reduce confidence that staff will have mental health literacy or consumer expertise, loss of a specialist health-focused entry point that is visible, safe and trusted. The consolidation of functions risks reinforcing the perception that making a complaint is intimidating or unsafe. There are precedents, such as in Tasmania, where a health complaints function is exercised by a consolidated statutory office though consumer protections and safeguards remain, such as retaining specialist staff, ongoing training and clear complaints pathways. This bill does not reference consumer engagement, despite being a major structural reform that affects the rights and safety of mental health consumers. In the Northern Territory context, where the Coalition and the Mental Health Coalition and the Northern Territory Lived Experience Network are establishing a consumer peak body co-funded by NT Health, this is a missed opportunity. The Northern Territory will be undertaking a dangerous structural experiment, placing the rights, safety and well-being of vulnerable Territorians at risk. And the Northern Territory Lived Experience Network said no modern integrity system allows senior oversight officials to report to a politically appointed CEO, complaints bodies to be controlled through ministerial appointments, corruption, health and ombudsman functions to be structurally subordinated within a hierarchy controlled by government. This structure is unsafe and unprecedented. Mr Deputy Speaker, drawing together these submissions, the evidence and our own history here in the Northern Territory, the key concerns of this bill can be summarised as follows. The bill vests sweeping authority in a single commissioner responsible for 4 fundamentally different functions: corruption investigations, administrative complaints, freedom of information decisions and health complaints. No other Australian jurisdiction uses such a model. Experts have warned us that merging these functions is unsafe, unworkable and removes vital checks and balances. They warn it also risks catastrophic failure if the wrong person is appointed to this role. The bill collapses functions that must remain separate. Matters such as corruption in health contracts and complaints about hospital care would be handled by the same office. The only safeguard is that the Commissioner must self-identify conflicts between investigations, something experts say is neither realistic nor adequate. Previous reviews recommended establishing assistant commissioners to preserve independence and specialist knowledge. This bill ignores that advice, leaving complex, high-risk work to generalist staff who may be moved, removed or under-resourced at any time. We've been here before, and in 2011 the NT separated the Health Complaints Commissioner from the Ombudsman because the roles clashed. This bill reverses that reform, recreating the very risks that here in the NT we previously eliminated. Other jurisdictions have also previously combined statutory authorities in a similar way, only to undo the changes because they failed. The bill also gives the new inspector the power to investigate and assess the Auditor General, who is an officer who must report directly to Parliament without interference. Experts, including the Australian Council of Auditor Generals, have warned that this would expose the Auditor General to political pressure and compromise financial accountability. The proposed inspector would wield broad powers with minimal accountability and no proper parliamentary review. And despite, in terms of the assistant commissioners, despite the McClintock-Highley report recommending that the assistant commissioners have statutory powers, the bill fails to do this. It's unclear why the government ignored this recommendation. To be clear, this bill does not give statutory authority to the new assistant commissioners, meaning government would no longer be required to act on advice from the assistant ICAC, Ombudsman or Health Complaints Commissioner. Our report makes clear recommendations based on the submissions that we received. They consistently recommended that we do not proceed with the bill in its current form and make the following recommendations. Number one, that the government should immediately withdraw the Integrity and Ethics Commissioner Bill 2025. Two, establish a comprehensive review led by 3 independent experts open to public submissions. This review must engage integrity specialists, legal groups, civil society and affected communities and allow adequate time for detailed analysis. It should adopt the Australian Anti-Corruption Commission principles. 3, conduct genuine consultation with people with lived experience of mental illness, disability and health complaints, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, integrity and democracy experts, legal and human rights advocates and staff from existing integrity bodies. 4, any future bill must be referred to the Legislative Scrutiny Committee, released as an exposure draft for line-by-line review and revised in response to identified issues. 5, strengthen existing integrity systems through secure funding, improved recruitment practices, clear statutory independence, adequate investigative resourcing and a genuine political commitment to transparency and accountability. When integrity experts oppose a law that makes such significant changes to our very integrity system, we are doing all Territorians a disservice when we ignore their advice. Mr Deputy Speaker, I strongly urge this Assembly, given the overwhelming advice received by us from these integrity experts, by all of us here in this chamber, not to pass this bill today. This is not about being anti-reform. I absolutely accept that there are real problems that need fixing in our integrity system, including under-resourcing, including ongoing acting appointments, including recruitment failures. But fixing these problems requires adequate funding, political commitment to independence, and a properly worked out statutory framework that is actually going to protect us all, not concentrating power and removing safeguards. As the integrity experts told us, no reform should proceed that weakens public confidence in the integrity system, and this bill fails that test completely. Mr Deputy Speaker, I urge this chamber and the government to withdraw this bill, to do the work properly and give the NT a model that truly strengthens rather than weakens the integrity system that we all deserve. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Member for Johnston. Member for Blain.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And I rise in support of this bill tonight, this afternoon. I'd like to start by saying it seems that this government is constantly having to fix up Labor's messes. The messes left to us by 8 years of incompetent, failing Labor government. I had high hopes back in 2017 when then Chief Minister Michael Gunner first announced that he was going to bring in an ICAC, but I had my doubts at the time because people often call Labor governments passion fingers because they manage to stuff up everything they touch. And time would show that the model chosen by the then Labor government was fundamentally flawed structurally for a small jurisdiction such as the Northern Territory. Perhaps they might have been more appropriate for a large jurisdiction, such as they have down south, but in a jurisdiction like the Northern Territory, where everyone is, perhaps 3 degrees of separation removed from everyone else, and we often find ourselves having to wear multiple hats to get things done, it's perhaps not the appropriate model. So the inaugural ICAC chosen by then Chief Minister Michael Gunner was Ken Fleming, who at the time had a great history as a prosecutor and a legal scholar. But unfortunately, those of us who are locals lived through his tenure, and to say that the ICAC was not covered in glory during that time is an understatement. Who can forget the Turf Club investigation, where Michael Gunner's Chief of Staff, who I won't name but is well covered in the media, sent an email to a certain person at the Turf Club saying, "This is the letter you need to send us." And then Michael Gunner walked that letter into Cabinet. But who did the then ICAC find blame against? A private company, private association that had no responsibility for any fiduciary responsibility for taxpayer dollars. The covert recordings of witnesses, which were described by the inspector at the time as entirely inappropriate and a breach of trust. Who could forget the then ICAC being appointed to oversee the police investigation of Kumanjai Walker in Yuendamu, who then made prejudicial statements at a protest in Alice Springs and had to be removed from that position of oversight. Ken Fleming retired early, likely due to health reasons, and I'd like to say Vala Ken Fleming, he indeed had a great career prior to this position, and it's potentially likely that he was a victim of the failed structure designed by the previous Labor government, which we are now here today to fix. When he retired, I had high hopes for the new ICAC, Michael Riches, that he would bring in a clean broom. But at the time, what I didn't realise was that the fundamental structure that he was operating in was flawed. So there were no appropriate checks and balances that are necessary for a role such as that. And I won't go into the details, but we've all lived through the sordid tales recently with the allegations that were made and the HR investigations that had to be undertaken and the failed handling of conflicts of interest by that ICAC. So this bill today remedies that situation. It restructures the ICAC and the other integrity bodies so that we can have a properly resourced, properly recruited commissioner, an integrity commissioner, who will have the appropriate oversight of the other integrity bodies and appropriate managing of conflicts of interest, so that situations like we saw with the previous ICAC, Michael Riches, are not able to happen again. Those conflicts of interest can be appropriately managed, and that hopefully now, on a proper structural footing, this office can get on with its job of ensuring there is integrity in the Northern Territory. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I commend this bill to the House.
Thank you, Member for Blain. Member for Nightcliff.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise today to give my contribution to the Integrity and Ethics Commissioner Bill, a bill that I do have serious concerns about. I've said many times this year, and I'll continue to say so, that the NT has a critical transparency and integrity problem. In recent months, we've had issues with the lack of independence from the chair of the NTPA. The CLP government have refused to share their ministerial white card policy. We've had a lack of referral to the Scrutiny Committee on any bill of substance, including this very bill. We've had the Racing and Wagering Commission openly admitting to accepting hospitality from the industry that they're supposed to regulate, and the list goes on. And this is just in the past few months, let alone the past 2 decades. Look, I'm sure we're all aware of how drastically under-resourced our existing integrity commissioners are and the myriad of problems we have had with conflicts of interest, poor leadership and generally poor functioning. Therefore, I would have warmly welcomed an in-depth review of these existing commissions with thorough scrutiny, review process and the opportunity for real experts to make submissions on what change is needed, because our communities do deserve to have strong, effective accountability mechanisms. But what we got with this, the McClintock-Healy review, was a rushed report that took just 3 weeks. No real transparency or evidence of why this proposed restructuring would be suitable. No real consultation and no evidence of what advice was provided to the reviewers on what changes should be made. And not only do we have this rush review process, but this government has then chosen not to adopt the model that was recommended. Rather, they have changed the operating structure, adding an additional role of integrity oversight inspector, which begs the question, where on earth are they getting the advice on these enormous changes from, if not from their own review? Now, I'm not an expert on integrity commissions and what makes for suitable, effective commissions, but luckily I don't have to be, because there are experts on this and there are recognised best practices that we can look to. But this government did not want to hear from any experts, and I wonder why. And forgive me for not trusting their sincerity and wanting to increase the effectiveness of these commissions when they were unwilling to engage in good faith consultation on this. You cannot be the most dishonest, secretive government we've seen in a long time and then expect us to trust that you actually want to improve integrity. Whilst claiming to value transparency and integrity, they are doing the very opposite by refusing any oversight of this incredibly significant bill. Literally a bill supposedly about integrity and transparency, and the CLP don't want it scrutinised. It's an absolute shame job. You can't make this stuff up. I can only assume that they didn't want to do any public consultation because they knew that the experts and the public would not affirm the model that is recommended in the report or in the subsequent bill. So instead of using the plentiful government resources to properly seek advice on how to improve these vital commissions, it was left to the member for Johnston, who stepped up and sought expert advice from her own Community Scrutiny Committee. Mind you, having done this with only 1.4 FTE staffing. And so I do thank everyone who made submissions to that forum and to the member for Johnston for creating this committee, because that's what leadership and integrity looks like. Now, I wholeheartedly support the initiative of this Community Scrutiny Committee that was set up because I believe the public deserves to have more say in policy making. But even I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, by the incredible response to this initiative and the incredibly high expertise that contributed. Really big, nationally important and leading organisations sent submissions to the member for Johnston's forum, such as the Australasian Council of Auditor Generals, the Australian Democracy Network, Transparency International Australia, the Centre for Public Integrity, Fairer Future, and more. And it should give pause to all those on that side giving very weak two-dimensional arguments supporting this, that the most nationally leading organisations have gone out of their way to make submissions to a forum put forward by the crossbench because the government couldn't be bothered to do it, and they're all saying the same thing. Funny. These expert submissions are the key basis for part of my contribution today, as I believe in evidence-based practice, as much as the Attorney-General still doesn't like to hear about evidence-based, and that good leadership is looking to in those wiser than yourself to inform policy. So I'll start by referring to the submission made by Fairer Future. They are collaborating with the Australia Institute on the Deepening Democracy Project, an initiative to improve the operation of Australia's integrity institutions. In this submission, they pointed out some serious concerns with the bill. The main and recurring theme in these submissions were the way in which conflicts of interest are going to be increasingly common and even harder to manage with this pooled staffing, resourcing and role of a single commissioner. This submission outlined just a few examples in which conflicts could easily occur, such as a person may lodge a complaint with the Ombudsman about an agency's handling of their FOI request, which the Information Commissioner is also examining. or a health service may be subject to both administrative review through the Ombudsman and a corruption investigation, which is an ICAC function. Or the same agency may be under investigation for corruption whilst also being the subject of systemic administration complaints. And these examples are not some sort of unlikely hypothetical. These are the very examples of the key work that these commissions do. These conflicts will regularly arise, and simply tasking an inspector to help alleviate conflicts is not enough, especially when so much of the processes will rely on self-reporting of these conflicts. So many of the submissions that I read and many of the community members that I have talked to raise concern about the loss of specialised expertise and function through this merging. Now, I recognise that the NT can struggle to find and retain specialists in specialisation in general, but the merging of these commissions will only exacerbate this. As outlined in both Narja's and the Fairer Futures submission, different integrity bodies serve distinct purposes with different skill sets, methodologies and institutional cultures. For example, anti-corruption bodies focus on detecting, investigating and exposing serious corruption through coercive investigative powers. The Ombudsman handle broader administrative complaints, systemic issues and agency improvement through persuasion and recommendations. You have the Information Commissioners protect FOI and privacy rights through specialised legal expertise. And Health Complaints Commissioners address specialised health service issues requiring medical knowledge. Thereby, merging these functions would see a loss of specialised expertise as generalist staff replace specialists. Alongside this, there will be no doubt be technical conflicts between investigative and also conciliation approaches, and confusion among the public about the body's role and functions, and reduced focus on prevention and systemic improvement in favour of reactive investigation. The role of an independent statutory body is incredibly important, particularly when the government changes every 4 years. Through a changing political landscape, the commissions remain independent, with a largely unchanging mandate bringing important stability and accountability. However, this bill is seeking to appoint a CEO into the mix who will oversee the staff and control the corporate side of the commission. Now, during the briefing provided by the government on this bill, they were unable to provide specific boundaries on the role of the CEO, with discretion provided to the Commissioner and CEO to decide now how they will operate together. This is concerning on a number of levels, as the CEO will be government appointed, and the CEO, of course, will not have the same independent statutory mandate. As identified in the Fairer Future submission, creating a single body may actually make it easier for a government to exert pressure or influence. A diversified integrity architecture with multiple independent bodies provides checks and balances. Consolidation concentrates power in one office that can more easily be controlled through budgetary pressure. There runs the risk of the appointment of a complaint commissioner, and political pressure only needs to be placed on a single point of contact. Earlier this year, we heard from the Anti-Discrimination Commissioner that he was told that in order to receive more funding, he had to demonstrate how his team was supporting the CLP government's mandate of, quote, rebuilding the economy, restoring territory lifestyle and reducing crime. Now, let me be clear, this is completely inappropriate. When a government makes funding conditional on supporting their political agenda, they are actively undermining the independence these bodies are legally required to maintain. This is exactly the kind of political interference that integrity institutions are designed to protect against. The merging into one commission alongside the introduction of a CEO raises serious concerns that the government could place their mandate upon this super commission rather than its actual statutory mandate, particularly when they will be balancing multiple statutory directives. As raised in Narja's submission to the Community Scrutiny Committee, it is unrealistic to expect that a single commissioner will be capable of providing the same level of oversight and effective decision-making across all 4 regimes without compromising timelines, quality and continuity, particularly in high-risk areas such as health complaints and corruption investigations. Narja's submission also pointed out that the NT struggles to find an appropriately qualified person to fill the role of a standalone commissioner, so how will we find someone so experienced with expertise across all of these high-level areas? When the Chief Minister first tabled this bill, she maintained twice that this was not a cost-saving measure. However, we have received no assurance of any additional funding for this new commission. So when we've heard here on this floor today it's about funding it properly, that's not the evidence that we see before us. It's hard to see why this new Integrity and Ethics Commission is being created for, if not purely for cost-saving measures, as the evidence does not show that this merging will make it any more effective. In fact, it does the opposite. Both the NT Mental Health Coalition and Northern Territory Lived Experience Network raised central concerns about the potential risks that this new commission poses to people with lived experience or who are vulnerable, namely those with mental ill health, people with disability, older people and carers, Aboriginal Territorians and those living in remote communities, alongside people facing chronic health challenges. They said, quote, "This consolidation may create confusion about where and how to make a complaint, apprehension that a health-related concern could become a more serious or punitive matter, reduced confidence that staff will have mental health literacy, cultural awareness or consumer expertise, loss of a specialist health-focused entry point that is visible, safe and trusted, the consolidation of functions, risks reinforcing the perception that making a complaint is intimidating or unsafe," end quote. There are numerous concerns, some quite technical, raised in the submissions to the member for Johnston's Scrutiny Committee, but due to limited time, I've tried to focus on the core issues. I want to draw the Assembly's attention to one final pressing concern raised in the Australian Democracy Network submission, and this is the fact that the ICAC was not included in the McClintock review. So per their submission, the integrity of the process is compromised by the explicit exclusion of the very office central to previous ICAC accountability. The Office of the ICAC Inspector was explicitly excluded from the scope of the review to manage conflicts related to one of the authors who served as the current inspector. This exclusion is a profound oversight, primarily since the entire accountability structure of the new system rests on creating an analogous but powerful integrity and ethics oversight inspector role. This is particularly concerning given the ongoing issues that the NT has faced with the ICAC specifically. Out of all these commissions that the government is seeking to merge, it is the ICAC that Territorians would have heard the most troubling news stories about. How could there be such a failure by this government in commissioning a report that they knew could not reasonably consider the functions and limits of the ICAC? But of course, none of those on that side have even bothered to mention this glaring mistake. They just parrot the lines that are given to them without any deep thought into what the ramifications of this are going to be. This government has made it abundantly clear to Territorians that if they do not like the policy direction of the CLP, then they can just leave, despite the fact that they're from here. Alongside this, the Chief Minister has refused to recognise that there might be any racism within the NT Police Force, despite the police doing their own investigation that affirmed there was structural racism. Alongside this, they've removed the need for legislation to be compatible with human rights. These are the very issues that the Ombudsman and other commissioners exist to deal with. And so now, more than ever, it is so important that they exist in strength and independence. And I am truly concerned by the way in which these changes might dismantle this. This is another step from this government into the direction of less transparency, less accountability and more secrecy. And I'm really concerned. This was such a missed opportunity. We could have really got in with a proper review, looked at the issues, what actually do we need to happen? But no, a 3-week review, back of a napkin kind of thing, let's do it, no scrutiny. It's an absolute disgrace.
Thank you, Member for Nightcliff. Any further speakers? I'll call the Chief Minister in closing.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I thank honourable members for their contribution to this really important piece of reform. We've certainly heard a lot of revisionism this evening from those opposite, Madam Speaker, but it's very important for us as a government to outline how we got here. Now, there is no two ways about it that Labor's ICAC failed to meet community expectation. That much is absolutely abundantly clear. Territorians did not feel that the ICAC had delivered on its promises, and Labor ignored these issues and failed to do anything about it. Now, the ICAC, I think it was about 2018 it was created, and to date it cost Territorians $35 million. $35 million, Madam Speaker. And so, as we had seen over the years of the trust being damaged, and Territorians in the end ended up having to pay for 2 ICAC commissioners at the one time, while former Commissioner Richards remained on extended leave. in coming into government, we knew we had to do something to restore community confidence in this incredibly important institution. Very, very important. So our greatest concern, despite the ridiculous accusations by those opposite who seek nothing other than to throw as much mud as humanly possible, our greatest concern from day one on this has been how do we possibly, what will it take to restore people's trust in this integrity function? That has been a very, very important consideration. And so we know that sorry, Madam Speaker, I can barely hear myself over the constant interjections by the member for Nightcliff, who has had her chance to have her say, Madam Speaker, which a lot of it was absolute misleading rubbish, and I sat there and listened to it politely, Madam Speaker. If she listened to me, she might actually learn something, which would be a new skill for you, member for Nightcliff. So I'll continue on, Madam Speaker. There has been a substantive lack of confidence, and we have to deal with that. We absolutely have to deal with that, hence a structural reform. And so the McClintock Hiley Review found absolutely that there has been damage to the public reputation and standing of the ICAC, and that standing has to be re-established. Well, we absolutely agree with that. I have been flagging this for a very long time, given all of the public events that have happened with this issue. And we have Bruce McClintock SC and Justice Hiley, two highly esteemed, credentialed, nationally respected individuals, undertake a report of which we fully accepted the recommendations. I stood here and I tabled it in Parliament to recreate a structure, create a structure that provides for a strengthening of our integrity functions, that provides an opportunity for Territorians to have confidence in the system moving forward. And that, of course, is the establishment of the Integrity and Ethics Commission, Madam Speaker. And so what this new body will do is strengthen and bring together all of those integrity functions, including the ICAC function, the Ombudsman, the Information Commissioner, and the Health and Community Services Complaints Commissioner. Bring all of those together with a commissioner while providing shared services as well to the Auditor-General, who very deliberately remains outside and independent of this new commission. Explicitly so, Madam Speaker. And any allegations to the otherwise is just ridiculous. It's spelled out in black and white in the Act, Madam Speaker. So Mr McClintock has briefed the Acting ICAC, the Auditor-General, the Acting Ombudsman and Information Commissioner and Acting Health Complaints Commissioner on the recommended model. There are already interim arrangements in place for those integrity bodies. And what this bill would do is establish that principal integrity officer, bringing together those oversight functions. And so there will be that dedicated corporate administrative support. Need I remind members in this House of the reason Mr Riches was on extended leave, and this will then better support staff in this agency with a CEO whose responsibility is managing staff, managing the day-to-day functions of an agency as you would expect, allowing then the important work of the Commissioner to not have to deal with those types of matters and to solely focus on the work at hand. It provides much better, much clearer lines of responsibility and allows the integrity functions to just be integrity functions, Madam Speaker. And so the bill provides for transitions. It's expected to be fully operational in the first half of next year. And I understand that change is hard, and this will be a huge change for a lot of staff. But we cannot keep limping along with the same model that Labor left us with. It has proven itself not to work, and so we must do something different. And we have a highly respectable people in this field giving us a blueprint on which we can follow, which we are following, Madam Speaker. And so this will be more sustainable. It will be obviously a unified system, And we can expect a more streamlined and consistent and transparent approach as a result of it, Madam Speaker. Even just having that shared corporate services, for example, delivers economy of scale and efficiencies, which means more of the budget can be spent doing the integrity work. And the member for Nightcliff is making cheap shots about this not being about money. If we can spend that money better on the actual integrity and accountability functions, then that delivers better accountability and scrutiny of our democratic processes. That's exactly what we want, is less money being spent on back of house and duplication and more money being spent on front of house. And I actually take exception to the comment, and I think 2 members made this comment about how generalists were going to be replacing specialists. I just don't know. I just don't know where that has come from, Madam Speaker, because this is not the case at all. It's not the case at all. So I don't know why you think we're going to be. It's not even worth me going into, Madam Speaker. But it again just shows. The lack of understanding from those opposite, because they are so blindly desperate to try and make this a bad thing, even though it's a good thing, Madam Speaker. I'm actually astonished that the Labor opposition are not supporting this change, Madam Speaker. They would rather have Territorians continue with the broken system that has been tried and tested broken several times and cost taxpayers $35 million on top of all of the costs of those other agencies. That is Labor's position, is to maintain a broken integrity function. Shame. That is not what is happening, Madam Speaker. It cannot stay that way. Shame. And so we know that these amendments, we know that we're very focused on this. It retains all of the powers and all of the strength in each of those respective functions. It just harmonises it into one act with one commissioner. So all of the powers that currently exist will continue to exist. It is a reform of the structure, Madam Speaker, and this has been done properly through the proper parliamentary processes and is robust and contemporary, Madam Speaker. Now, I will be circulating a small number of Assembly amendments if they haven't already been circulated, Madam Speaker, and obviously we'll go through those in the consideration in detail stage. They don't alter the overall intent of the bill, they just strengthen integrity arrangements for managing conflicts of interest, which I'm sure the member for Johnston will be thrilled about. And so it was raised by the acting ICAC that having a minister appoint an acting integrity officer could raise challenges, and so that has been addressed through the amendments which will be circulated, and we will move forward there. I commend the bill to the House. I want to thank all of the teams who worked on this legislation. It's been a terrific result. I'd like to thank Mr McClintock and His Honour Justice Hiley for their important work, and I commend the bill to the House, Madam Speaker.
The question is the bill be now read a second time. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The clerk.
A bill for an act to promote integrity and ethics in the public sector and health sector by establishing the positions of Integrity and Ethics Commissioner and Integrity and Ethics Oversight Inspector and for related purposes.
Chief Minister.
Consider it, yeah.
Oh, okay, we'll move into consideration in detail. You've already flagged that, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, order. The Assembly will consider the Integrity and Ethics Commissioner Bill 2025 serial 46, together with the amendment schedule numbered 046 GAV, circulated by the Chief Minister. Now, members, I'm conscious that we have about 151 clauses, or exactly 151 clauses. So I ask if you can, and I know people do want to talk about a range of them. So maybe if you can just give me some indication for the first 50 clauses, are there any particular ones that people wish to discuss? Yeah, okay. So do you want me to start going one by one, or?
Yeah, we'll probably have to for a little while.
And then if you can give me a hint when we've got through the bulk of them and when we may, group them up a little bit.
That sounds good.
Okay, so we'll just go through one by one then. Okay. So the question is that clause 1 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 2 stand as printed. Those that opinion say... Oh, sorry.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 1 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 2.
Clause 2. Okay. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Are there any speakers? Any other speakers? No? The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those that have opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question now is that the clause stand as amended. Right. The question is that the clause stand as amended. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Okay. Question is that clause 3 stand as printed.
Mr Deputy Speaker?
Chief Minister.
Hang on. No, sorry.
Mr Deputy Speaker,
Leader of the Opposition.
agreed to the amendment. Can I still ask the Chief Minister a question to the clause as amended?
No, we've just done that, sorry.
Yeah, where am I up to?
Oh, okay, so I've just got advice from the clerk, and I just want to make sure people are happy for me to go from 3 to 38 as a group?
No, got 5.
No, okay. So like I said, we'll go back...
You asked for...
Yeah. Okay, thank you. But I will just go through one by one then, just as a start for the first 50.
To 41 there.
You'll give me a hint. Thank you, Leader of the Opposition. Okay.
My next one's, sorry, Clause 39.
39. Okay, so look, I think the Leader of the Opposition has a range of them. I think I will go through one by one, I think, for the first 50. Okay.
My first one question's at 5.
So and the first one's at 5. So let's go again. The question is that clause 3 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 4 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 5 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Chief Minister, why would you not rule out for Clause 5 candidates of any political affiliation over any period of time rather than just a set time limit, given the need for this person to have the highest levels of integrity and impartiality?
Yes, thank you very much, Opposition Leader. There's no change to Clause 5 from what's in the current ICAC Act.
The Opposition. Any further questions? Okay. So the question is that clause 5 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 6 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 7 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. The ayes have it. The question is that clause 8 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Chief Minister, who selects the Commissioner for recommendation to the Legislative Assembly?
Sorry, where are we up to? 8? Yeah, so this will be, a full national recruitment process with a panel, and it will be a full recruitment process.
Thank you, Chief Minister. And noting your answer to that previous question, just reassuring Territorians that it will be merit-based, open and transparent process, and will it also include a focus for that recruitment role around the 12 fundamental principles of the Australian Anti-Corruption Commissions, to which our Northern Territory ICAC is a current signatory to?
Yeah, it will be a full process. You can see that there's the Act in subsequent sections has all of the different criterias and all of those things. So this will be a full recruitment process. We want the very best person for the job.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Will that selection criteria be publicly available to match so people can see it's in line with the fundamental principles?
Yeah, so a job description will be published as per obviously that recruitment process, so people know what the job is. But if you look to clause 12, for example, eligibility of appointment, it has all of those safeguards as well.
Thank you. I do have questions for that clause later on. Chief Minister, how will conflicts of interest be managed when it comes to panel members and the selection of that very important position?
Well, there are strict rules around that, so it'll be managed as per the process.
Will that process be available to Territorians to be able to understand how that conflict of interest will be managed? Will that also be available online?
If people are on the panel, they can't be conflicted. That's the whole point. So they'll have to excuse themselves and follow those rules. What clause are we on? Clause 8? Yes. Yes. So I think you're straying a bit far out of clause 8, Opposition Leader.
Chief Minister, is there a vetting process for candidates, including any past activities that may make them unsuitable for applying for the role?
Yeah, we've already talked about who's eligible and who's not, so obviously we have to then check if people are eligible or not.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. The question is that clause 8 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 9 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Chief Minister, what budget will the office have, noting that there hasn't been any changes at this point flagged by your government for the operations?
Yeah, all of the budgets will be rolled in, and then obviously as the budget process happens, that will be a matter for the budget process, but all of the budgets will come together.
Thank you. And will it be available publicly through, I guess, the normal budget process, which you've outlined, staffing costs, operational costs and administrative costs?
There'll be annual reports just like normal. There'll be estimates just like normal. This bill literally just changes the structure. It doesn't change any other powers or funding or anything like that.
Thank you, Chief Minister. And do you have a number of staff that will be available to understand whether that will make up the commission?
Sorry, ask that again.
Sorry, the number of staff that will make the commission. Do you have that number available?
It's the existing staff. Will all come under a new structure.
Do you have that figure? Sorry to be picky.
I don't, but it's probably in an annual report. And also I note that there's been a very significant shortage of being able to recruit to positions. So they will have a staffing budget, but they probably have less just because they can't get people. Yeah, it's about 60 FTE, but that's a rough number.
Understand, thank you, and appreciate that number. Chief Minister, how many is administrative versus staff engaged to do the statutory functions will be out of that 60 FTE, roughly?
I can't break that down for you, and it's not part of the clause, but ultimately all of those existing agencies will have, you know, administrative staff, investigative staff, all of those other types of roles, and so as they merge, they'll work through that.
Thank you. And this next question goes to similar to a previous one, but in regards to the CEO, who will be a public servant, how will they be appointed, and will this also be an open and transparent merit-based process?
So that's where the PSEMA Act comes into it, so they'll be recruited under PSEMA.
Thank you. And will the agency that appoints the CEO, will that go through CM&C, the Chief Minister and Cabinet?
That would be led by OCPE.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Minister, for that clarification. And will all existing staff, both operational and administrative, will each integrity agency have a role for them in the new office out of those 60 FTEs?
Well, that's certainly my understanding.
Thank you. And I do know and appreciate there will be a transition process, so that's why I need to ask the question. Chief Minister, if there are to be positions redundant or redeployed, at what point will that be made clear to those staff?
Yeah, those are really operational matters, and it will be a matter for the CEO.
Thank you. And I assume there's already been communication to staff in relation to this transition. When would they start to transition?
Once a commissioner is appointed, then we will do that transition.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Through the Deputy Chair, will there be economies of scale or efficiencies given that there'll be the overarching commissioner, the CEO, and presumably a deputy commissioner role overseeing each of the functions of the office?
Yes, because getting expertise, they have shared expertise that they need. And when we talk about investigative or complaints-based staff, you know, just even just looking to the ICAC, for example, they're carrying significant shortages of staff because it's very difficult to fill those positions. So we will then have immediately many more staff with those skills and be able to then build that base up as required. But again, those are operational matters for the new commissioner, and this really needs to be driven by the new commissioner.
Thank you. No further questions on this clause.
No further questions? The question is that clause 9 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 10 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. Chief Minister, for this clause, are you able to provide any detail for the appointment process?
Yeah, I just explained it.
So you didn't mention the administrator, so just checking.
Yeah.
What,
so the administrator, so this is the same as under the ICAC Act.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make that
Okay,
clear.
no further questions?
No, one more question.
Oh, sorry,
Thank
one more
you.
question.
And Chief Minister, again, with conflicts of interest, will they be managed in terms of the decision-making process in the appointment of the Commissioner?
Yes, that's all part of recruitment.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions? The question is that clause 10 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 11 stand as printed.
No.
Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, how will the Commissioner be expected to manage conflicts of interest across such a broad sweep of powers, considering they have their function plus the 3 other integrity bodies sitting under their powers, essentially?
Yes, thank you, Opposition Leader. So that's dealt with a little further in the Act, and it's dealt with as part of my amendments as well.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And my other question for this clause, Chief Minister, is how do you expect that there will be a qualified person to make decisions across each of the 4 integrity agencies, given the number of acts and there, as you mentioned yourself, some specific requirements and skills in those roles, which may then require different functions for each of those officers?
Yeah, because of the reform, there's sort of a number of things. So, number one, they don't have to be a CEO anymore, which they, up until this point, were, which takes a huge amount of time and resources. So that part of the workload has been shed because we need a CEO providing that proper support to staff and the functions of the office. So then you have all of the assistant commissioners underneath providing that direct support to the commissioner. So it is a new structure, but a well-supported structure, and we are also very hopeful that it will support greater interest in that role from very senior, experienced people, given the breadth of the work they'll be doing.
Thank you, Chief Minister. And if there is a conflict of interest, would the Commissioner then disclose that to the CEO?
So there's a whole process for that, and we'll get to it, and we'll have to get to it. We won't skip over it, Opposition Leader, because I've got amendments.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Further questions? Thank you. The question is that Clause 11 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that Clause 12 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, if the person appointed was previously a public officer, does this ensure their independence, given that they will be have established networks and relationships, and how will this be managed?
Yep, so the eligibility for appointment is exactly how it is under the current ICAC Act. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say exactly. We had to change a couple of words, but it is the same criteria.
Any further questions? The question is that Clause 12 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that Clause 13 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that Clause 14 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that Clause 15 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, in the situation of a leave of absence, who fills the role of an interim on an interim basis, and who makes the decision about that acting commissioner?
Yep, so if the commissioner's on leave, then the administrator has to appoint an acting.
Thank you. Chief Minister, if the acting commissioner is in fact who's appointed is in fact a public officer, will they have to resign from their public officer role to take on the role of an interim commissioner?
No, because it's temporary.
And will there be a limit to what's considered temporary?
Section 16 deals with that vacancy component, which is the next one.
Thank you. I'll ask in that one. Thanks for that. Chief Minister, will the interim commissioner be required to undergo the same level of vetting and ensure that the same declarations around conflict of interest exist as would the full-time commissioner role?
No, there won't be an interim commissioner. We will just go to advertise and then have the commissioner.
Oh, sorry. I mean, when there's an acting with the leave of absence. Yeah, sorry, I didn't make that clear. Sorry. With the acting commissioner, sorry, I said interim. With the acting commissioner, will they be required to undergo the same level of conflict of interest scrutiny and declarations as would the full-time commissioner?
Yes, they have to be able to be the commissioner, so they have to meet all of that criteria.
Thank you.
Any further questions? The question is that Clause 15 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that Clause 16 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, if the Commissioner is facing criminal or civil charges or is under investigation, what happens to their role in that process?
So this clause is exactly the same as it is in the ICAC Act. We've changed the word ICAC to the word Commissioner. That's the only change.
So does that mean that position, same sort of thing, would be put on leave while the proceedings or the possible investigation is completed?
Well, it just depends. So it's set out all there. So, for example, the office of the 16. What's an example? CI. If found guilty of an offence, whether in the territory or elsewhere, for which the maximum penalty is imprisonment of a term of at least 12 months or without a fine. So there's different, bankruptcy is listed in D. It just depends if it is one of those triggers.
Thank you. And is there any fallout if the acting commissioner is in the role while the commissioner is on leave, and there are any conflicts of interest that are not adequately managed in an investigation?
So the conflict of interest process applies to an acting ICAC as well, which we haven't quite got to yet, but all of those provisions would apply to an acting as they do to the commissioner.
Thank you. And Chief Minister, who terminates an appointment and on what evidence would that be determined by?
Yeah, that's further down as well, and we'll get to that.
Thank you. And I'm just going to write my question that I asked earlier in 15, which should have been in 16. What is the maximum or minimum of a temporary absence considered? Timing, sorry.
Oh yeah, we haven't got to it yet, opposition leader, that's why. So 20 is acting commissioner. And you can see there it says periods not exceeding in aggregate 6 months in any 12 months. But we're not up to it yet. Sorry, so we're up to 16?
Yeah.
And the detail of the time frames is in 20.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, yep, so it's just a bit further up.
Yep, thank you.
No further questions? The question is that clause 16 stand as printed. Those that
Oh,
have
sorry,
been...
sorry. I apologise. I was just writing down so I had the question so I don't miss it in clause 20. I apologise. Only one more for this clause. Chief Minister, will the decision to terminate the commissioner role, would that have to come back to the Legislative Assembly similar to what was expected under the ICAC?
So we've just got 2 more clauses. So we're up to 16, then 17 is resignation, 18 is suspension and termination.
Last there. Thank you.
Right, no further questions. The question is that clause 16 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I believe the ayes have it. The question is that clause 17 stand as printed.
Aye.
No further questions. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 18 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Leave the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Same question, Chief Minister. Will the decision to terminate the Commissioner come back to the Legislative Assembly?
Yes, it has to.
Thank you. What is the definition of incompetence and who decides the threshold for it to be met? That's just nasty, Steve.
Yeah. So it's intentionally not defined, but that will be a matter for the inspector.
What definition of misbehaviour and who decides the threshold to be met?
The inspector.
No further questions?
No.
Oh, Leader of the
Just
Opposition.
writing some answers, so.
Okay.
Chief Minister, if a Commissioner is found to be engaging in corruption, would this mean immediate termination?
So the inspector would have to form that view, then they would suspend them and then do the investigation, and then whatever came out of that would be whatever happens next.
Thank you. And I assume the circumstances would be for suspension and engaging in corruption would be if they break any of the criteria that they're appointed by in the first place.
Well, it could be much, much broader than that. Like if they were engaged in corruption, it could be all sorts of things.
Chief Minister, who has the decision-making capacity in terms of determining whether a Commissioner is suspended from duty?
The Administrator.
Thank you. And what steps can be put in place to ensure suspensions don't drag on and create ongoing uncertainty for staff and for Territorians?
It would then, the Act allows obviously for an acting inspector to come in, an acting commissioner to come in, and so you would have that continuity.
Thank you. And what is the time frame for tabling a statement of reasons for a suspension?
Within 6 sitting days.
No further questions? The question is that clause 18 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 19 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, who would conduct an investigation when it comes to the Commissioner taking leave?
Sorry, do you want to rephrase that?
Sorry, the Chief Minister asked if you could rephrase it. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you. So, if there's a situation where it's necessary for the Minister to direct the Commissioner to take leave, who would conduct the investigation?
Yeah, the Inspector.
Inspector. Yeah. And can I just clarify, Chief Minister, would the Inspector have a role in recommending to the Minister that the Commissioner take leave, or would it be completely separate until there's a recommendation to take leave?
No, it would be from the Inspector.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions?
No,
Leader of the opposition?
yes, more questions, sorry. How will perceived or real conflicts of interest be managed in relation to the person who conducts the investigation, which would be the Inspector?
Yeah, that's in clause 54.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No further
And one more.
That's okay.
This is a big folder. What is the requirement for the Minister to advise the Legislative Assembly if a Commissioner has been directed to take a leave of absence as opposed to the suspension?
There's no legislative requirement to do that, but obviously that would be something that you would notify of.
Okay.
No further questions? The question is that clause 19 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 20 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. My question from earlier, is there a time frame around the leave? It says a vacant period of 18 months, but just wondering if there's a leave time frame.
You mean like how much annual leave do they get, or you mean, so it can't be vacant for, they can't be away for more than 6 months in any 12 months.
Okay. Thank you. Chief Minister, what vetting process will occur to ensure the acting Commissioner is suitable for the role requiring such a high degree of integrity?
They have to meet the exact same conditions as the Commissioner itself.
Thank you. And given the legislation specifically requires the full-time Commissioner not to be a public officer to ensure that they retain independence, why is there less of a threshold for the acting Commissioner role, given that the person could be in a role for up to 18 months?
Yeah, because it's temporary.
Member for Johnston.
Thank you. Chief Minister, under 21, what's the
Sorry, we're doing clause 20.
Sorry, clause 20, yeah. Sorry, under 20, number 1, brackets 1.
Sorry.
I'm not the same as you.
What's the definition of an eligible person for appointment?
It's in the definition section.
Thank you.
No further questions? Question is that clause 20 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 21 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you. Chief Minister, many senior public servants move between agencies. Does the restriction for an acting commissioner to never investigate their own department extend to previous departments that they may have worked for?
Sorry, say that again.
So because of the movement of public servants over time, over years and experience, does the restriction for an acting commissioner to never investigate their own department extend to previous departments? So if they've come out of education and then gone into infrastructure, would there be a restriction that they can't then investigate on education?
Yeah, it's really about conflict management. So, I mean, if someone is eligible for the role and they once used to be in Department of Education to 20 years ago, but it really is more about the conflict management component rather than any previous work experience per se.
Thank you, Chief Minister. And would that extend to previous colleagues or organisations, say, that have liaised with government?
Well, the full conflict management regime applies. So people have to take all of those appropriate steps.
Thank you. And Chief Minister, given that, of course, we're a small jurisdiction, how is this provision workable, and will there be clear guidelines around that conflict management management framework?
Yes, and we are edging closer to it, but yes, it is all in there.
Okay.
Member for Johnston.
Thank you. Chief Minister, with the conflict of interest proposals in conditions in section 21, what happens if an acting commissioner is precluded from undertaking any of those roles? Who then does it?
Yeah, that isn't in 21. That's later with all the other conflict stuff.
Okay. No further questions? Question is that clause 21 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 22 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you. Chief Minister, who hears the oath?
Who, sorry, what?
Who hears the oath?
Who hears it? The administrator.
Thank you.
Any further questions? The question is that clause 22 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 23 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, how will the inspector be appointed?
Yes. By the administrator.
Thank you. And will a former public officer be eligible to become the inspector?
No.
Thank you. What skills and experience and criteria are expected for the role of the inspector?
Yeah, it's the same criteria as the commissioner themselves.
And Chief Minister, will it be open and transparent recruitment process for the appointment of the inspector?
Yeah, so it's a recommendation of the Assembly to the administrator.
Thank you.
No further. Member for Johnston.
Chief Minister, who is the inspector accountable to?
The Assembly.
And Chief Minister, can you explain that process?
The report. Yes, so the inspector as well is required to do annual reports and they're tabled through the Assembly.
So, Chief Minister, if someone has a complaint about the inspector, what would be the process for making that complaint?
Yeah, so the inspector's role is to provide that oversight to the commission. There isn't an inspector of the inspector. So if the inspector was to, I don't know, but there are obviously all of those usual avenues. For example, if it was criminal, it would be through the DPP and that process to the courts. Just, I mean, I'm not going to engage in the hypothetical, but...
Thank you, Chief Minister. I understand we are allowed to explore hypotheticals as part of consideration in detail. It's just a question that people have asked me. If someone has a complaint or a concern about the inspector, what is the process that they will go through?
There's really no public interface between members of the public and the inspector. The inspector has an oversight role over the commissioner.
And if the commissioner has a complaint?
Would you like to elaborate on your hypothetical?
If the commissioner alleged that the inspector was behaving in a way that was not appropriate in terms of their role.
It really just depends what that complaint could be.
No further questions? The question is that clause 23 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 24 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister... I've gone way too far. Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, how many staff will the Inspector's Office have?
Yes, there's no staff attachment. The inspector's role is utilised when needed. So I guess hypothetically there could be an instance perhaps if there was some sort of investigation that they might need staff, but there's no staff allocation.
Thank you. And what skills and function, if there were to be staff, would be required for an inspector's office to support that role?
Yeah, there are suitability checks for the staff later on, if there was to be staff.
Thank you. And will public officers be precluded from applying for jobs if there were the need in an inspector's office?
Yeah, clause 32.
Thank you.
Further questions? Leader of the opposition.
And what will the budget for the office be? Same as the current ICAC inspector?
Yeah, it's as needed because it just depends what work they have to do.
Thank you. And will any recommendations for improvement made by the inspector to the commissioner be made public?
Yeah, the inspector puts it in their annual report. So even if you go to the last one, you'll see various commentary in there.
And that will still be tabled at the...
Yeah, yep, through the parliament. Yep, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, no further questions?
Yes.
Question is...
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Leader of the opposition.
Will the commissioner be required to respond to the recommendations and show action towards them, similar to when a minister is provided perhaps a coronial and then there's government adoption or rejection of those recommendations? Would that also be a requirement to show what they agree to and what they don't?
Yeah, it's operational, so they would just have to work that out. If the inspector was to make a recommendation and then the commissioner has to operationalise it or make their response. I suppose to follow your analogy, like a coronial, government takes a look at the report, looks at what could be done and then decides, you know, which bits it can do, which bits it can't. So it's sort of I hate to draw that analogy, but seeing as you raised it, it's sort of a similar. Yeah, and the accountability measure, though, is that the inspector will report on it in the annual report. So if the commissioner hadn't done it, everyone will know.
Okay, thank you. That provides a bit of insight. And Chief Minister, if there's a complaint within the Auditor General or Inspector's purview, what would that also, would that also fall under the jurisdiction of the PSEMA?
Sorry, just say that again.
If there is a complaint that is handled within the Auditor General or the Inspector's purview, would this also fall under the jurisdiction of PSEMA? Because, you know, the Auditor General sits outside in that different box on the structure.
Yeah, it just depends on the complaint. Like if it was a staff issue,
it would go to the CEO.
Because it comes under PSEMA, yeah.
But if it was around the work...
Sorry, not for the Auditor General, no, because remember the Auditor General is separate.
Separate, yeah.
Yes.
So if it was handled within the Auditor General's office, could that complaint go to the Commissioner if there was a complaint about the work of the Auditor General?
Yeah, so if it was a complaint about, sorry, let me just get the wording of this right.
Thank you.
Yeah, if it was a complaint about improper conduct against the Auditor General, that would go to the Inspector.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. That provides clarity. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Oh, no further questions. The question is that
hang on,
clause
sorry.
24 stand as printed.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I think
clarification.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chief Minister, did you say complaints about improper conduct of the Auditor General will go to the Inspector?
Yes.
No further questions. The question is that clause 24 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 25 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, can you elaborate or explain the former parties? Does this mean former commissioners? And if so, how far back do these powers extend?
Just as required, there's no limitation on how far back.
Okay.
No further questions? The question is that clause 25 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The question is that clause 26 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say...
no.
Oh, sorry, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you,
My
Mr.
fault.
Chair. Chief Minister, what's the requirement for the Inspector to brief the Minister or advise the Minister of an investigation or the outcomes of an investigation?
Yeah, there's no requirement to report, but he does have his annual report, but he also could, or I shouldn't say he, the Inspector could report.
You mean the Inspector could advise the Minister? But no requirement.
But there's no requirement, yeah,
Yep.
correct.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And Chief Minister, will the Inspector provide advice or recommendations to the Minister about addressing the outcomes or an investigation, or would that then come later into the report?
Any recommendations would be in the report, so...
And similar vein, the Inspector could provide information if they chose to, as a heads up or whatever. Early, okay. And thank you. And does the Inspector have referral powers, Chief Minister?
Yes.
And would that be in the case of, say, criminal matter? It would go, the referral powers would go to the police?
Yep, that's all in clause 39.
Okay. Thank you.
No further questions? Question is that clause 26 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 27 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, contrary no. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, is there a clear criteria around the vetting process?
Sorry, for the appointment of Inspector?
Sorry, for the appointment.
Yep, so clause 27 sets out what an eligible person is.
And can they be a public officer?
No. No.
Thank you. And will the recruitment process be open and transparent and available to the public to understand?
Yeah. So it will be public because it comes as a recommendation of the Assembly.
Thank you. And so does the panel make a decision that then gets recommended to the Parliament?
Yeah, so there has to be a vetting process, that likely is a panel, and then that recommendation has to be brought to the Assembly, and the Assembly has to accept that recommendation. And then the Administrator would appoint them.
Points officially. Thank you. And Chief Minister, how are the panel members chosen, and will there be a criteria around that?
Yeah, there is an independent panel and there's a protocol around that.
Thank you.
Any further questions? The question is that clause 27 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 28 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 29 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 30 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 31 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 32 stand as printed.
No.
Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, if employed by an agency, how can the independence of a staff member be guaranteed? And if this is a standard that is not applied to the inspectors, well, if they need the inspector staff, how will the Commissioner deal with this?
That's how it is now. Yeah, so again, this is as required, and this is the same provision in the current ICAC Act. And they have to sign a confidential agreement with the inspector.
No further questions?
Yes, more questions. And would that, I guess, entail a vetting process to help manage any perceived conflicts or real conflicts?
Yeah, all of that has to happen, and it just depends what type of staff the inspector would need, depending on what's happening. Yeah, it's usually just administrative.
Thank you. And you've answered my last one about confidentiality agreements.
Yeah.
No further questions? Question is that clause 32 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 33 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, will staff or potential staff have background checks undertaken on partners or other family members?
Yeah, the criteria is set out there in 33, and so that is what it will be based on. Which is the same as it is now under the ICAC Act.
And can I just get an understanding, would there be a level of criteria around similar, I guess, members of parliament, we have members' interests, ministers have their ministerial code of conduct. Would there also be something similar with suitability checks for staff around family or close friends?
Yeah, again, it would be, up to the inspector to some extent, but it would depend what the type of stuff was. Usually it's administrative. And again, there's a very lengthy criteria there, and that is the same as how it is now.
Thank you.
No further questions. The Question is that clause 33 stand as printed. Those that have opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 34 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, in this particular clause, there's wording around encouraging honest and frank consideration. In, I guess, sort of everyday language and layman's term, what is this clause aiming to do?
It's really around the handling and storage of information, and again, this is the same as it is in the ICAC Act. We've just updated the clause number to correspond with the new clauses.
Thank you. And would this relate to all of the acting commissioner components or roles, I guess, their duties and functionalities?
This is just about the inspector.
This is just the inspector. Thank you.
No further questions. Question is that clause 34 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 35 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, will the inspector have powers to look at whether the commissioner is performing their full range of functions, that they're not just acting within the power, but they're actually fulfilling the entirety of the role and meeting community expectation?
So again, the inspector does their annual report, and so this clause really goes to, and you can see it sort of says it, subsection 2, whether the commissioner acted within power and in compliance with the Integrity Acts and other acts or subordinate legislation, whether they've implemented any previous recommendations made by the inspector. So that goes to our earlier point you were asking about if the inspector was to make a recommendation and the commissioner didn't do it, would we find out? So this is that accountability piece.
No further questions. Question is that clause 35 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 36 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Just want to be clear, because I know Chief Minister has alluded to this in different responses, but just checking that there will be the annual report still intact. Thank you.
No further questions. The question is that clause 36 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 37 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, can you explain broad discretion and the definition of that for this clause?
I'm not seeing broad discretion there, Opposition Leader. Improper conduct or questionable conduct?
That's okay. But I'll ask the other question. Thank you. Chief Minister, will there be public reporting on the number of complaints that are handled by the Commission?
They do it in the annual report, yeah. Yeah, that's already practice in the annual report, and that will continue.
Thank you.
No further questions. The question is that clause 37 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 38 stand as printed.
No.
Leader of the opposition.
Thank you. Chief Minister, does this include people's homes if they work from home, the premises?
Yep, so IEC premises is defined in clause 3.
Thank you. And Chief Minister, does this include access to laptops and phones that may be stored or used at home or in a vehicle or something?
Yeah, if it's for official use, then yes.
Thank you. And would this apply to all staff, including the administrative staff?
Yes.
Thank you.
No further questions. The question is that clause 38 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 39 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Oh, yeah, amendment.
Yes. Hang on. Thank you. Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 2 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 39.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
Right, I think the ayes have it.
Mr Deputy
Yeah.
Speaker, I move Amendment 3 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 39. Sorry, 39.
So I just want to check on
3.
Yeah. Question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
Those of the opinion say aye, the contrary no. I think the ayes have it.
Can I check with the chair, when can I ask questions on the amended clause?
Before it's moved, I think.
Yeah, so when I come now, have we finished on the amendments?
Not all, but
Okay.
You've
The
done your
question
two,
now is
haven't
that
you?
the clause stand as amended, maybe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, what is meant by raising matters to the attention of the Minister, and what is the purpose of that wording?
sorry, Opposition Leader, which clause are you asking on?
Are we in 39?
39? And sorry, do you mind just repeating yourself?
Chief Minister, what is meant by raising matters to the attention of the Minister, and what is the purpose of that in this clause?
Which subclause are you on?
Oh, now I'm confused because you've done an amendment.
I think you might be on.
Sorry, it's clause 39, subsection 4. If the inspector is of the opinion that a matter needs to be brought to the attention of the Minister sooner than the next report under section 36 is due, the inspector may make a report to the Minister. So
yes, I found it. Sorry.
Yes.
So that's how it is currently under the ICAC Act, and it's there really. If the inspector feels it can't wait for the annual report, then it can be done out of session, I suppose you could call it, in the intervening period.
Thank you. And would that need action by the Minister, or is it just an information process?
Yeah, it would then be tabled. So the Minister would then table it in Parliament.
Okay.
So instead of waiting for the annual report,
yep.
say it's in March or something, and then it's provided to the Minister would table it in the March sittings, for example.
Yeah, thank you, because the follow-up question I had was what obligation does the Minister have to act on that information? So it is required that the Minister would need to table that to the Assembly. Yeah.
Any further questions? The question is that clause 39 as amended stand as printed. Those
Aye.
Contrary, opinions say aye, contrary no. I think the ayes have it.
Aye.
Well done. All right. The question is that clause 40 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 4 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 40.
The question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those that have opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question now is that the clause stand as amended.
Sorry, does the Chief Minister... are you doing all three? Sorry, you've got 3 amendments to clause 40.
I can, and then you want to ask questions on...
Is that easier? Because then you've
Yeah, we can
amended
do
the
it.
whole
Is that fine with
clause,
you,
and then
Mr.
we can
Deputy
ask our questions
Is
to
there-
the amended clause.
Everyone happy to do the 3 amendments and then ask questions?
Yep,
Yeah,
okay.
otherwise it's back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, agree. That sounds good.
But I'll go through them at a time anyway.
Okay, Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 5 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 40.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
Those opinions say aye. I think the ayes
Mr
have it.
Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 6 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 40.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Yeah,
The ayes have it, but
questions?
I'll go to the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you. Chief
We'll
Minister,
get there.
will these decisions, you're doing well, these decisions be made public?
Sorry, the decisions
For the
about.
resolution of the any conflict of interest?
Oh, no.
And if they're not made public, which you've just answered, what type of confidence will the public be able to have that they're managed effectively?
Yeah, because of the inspector as that oversight function, and they're the person who deals with what happens next when it's raised.
Chief Minister, what mechanisms exist if the Commissioner fails to self-identify a conflict?
What? Sorry, say that again. What was the start?
But given that this in this clause, the Commissioner's role is to self-identify conflicts, what mechanisms exist if the Commissioner fails to self-identify?
Yeah, that would result in a conduct issue.
And who would be determining that?
Inspector.
Further questions? The question now is that the clause stand as amended. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question now is that clause 41 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, how will this work in practice with the no oversight of the Judicial Commission?
Yep, this is currently how it is as well. So the Judicial Commission is separate.
Any further questions?
Oh, sorry, I think she's just going to clarify.
Just checking.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So it will stay separate. We don't want to bring Judicial Commission under the umbrella.
Perfect, thank you, appreciate that. And you've sort of just alluded to that, but are there any other safeguards or mechanisms in place so that the Commission doesn't undermine the integrity or the independence of the Judiciary Commission?
That's why they're separate,
Okay.
to make sure.
So just to keep them separate, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. No further questions? Question is that clause 41 stand as printed. Those of the opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Question is that clause 42 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 43 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no. Sorry, Member for Johnston, you wanted to say something?
Clause 43.
Clause 43, yes.
Chief Minister, why in this clause, why may the Inspector at any time evaluate the Auditor General when the evaluation of other Commissioners is annually?
Because that would force it to be annual and it's just as needed.
And can you give, I know there are some examples, but can you elaborate on what any aspect of the Auditor General's operations could include?
Yeah. Yep, so the examples are actually there, set out in the section. Timeliness of reports, use of resources, management of contractors, and compliance with statutory recording and accountability obligations. So, for example, if I don't know, if there's an obligation, say to do an annual report, the Auditor General has to do an annual report by a certain time, then the inspector could check on that.
And you also made reference to, and this may be under clause 45, improper conduct. Are you happy to talk about that here or at clause 45?
Yep.
No further questions? The question is that clause 43 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The question is clause 44 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 45 stand as printed.
No, thank you. Chief Minister, can you give examples of what improper conduct or questionable conduct of the Auditor General might encompass?
Yep, so questionable conduct is defined in subsection 3 at the front of the bill, and improper conduct is what's defined in the ICAC Act.
So to clarify, the Auditor General will now be under the same conditions as the current ICAC Act.
And they already are.
Okay.
Yes, and they already are.
Thank you. And can you define what a member of the Auditor General's staff means? Does that include people who are subcontracted or outsourced by the Auditor General?
Yep, that's defined in clause 3.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, what are some of the other examples of complaints which would fall under this clause if they're not audit judgments, methodologies or opinions of the Auditor General?
Has to be those. Yeah. It's administrative governance type things.
Thank you.
No further questions? Question is that clause 45 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 46 stand as printed.
No.
Move to the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, what processes or tools can the inspector have access to for this clause?
Yes, this is the same as he currently has under the ICAC Act.
Thank you. And what notice does the inspector have to give the Auditor General's office if he or she wants to inspect the premises and the information?
Yeah, it's just standard as per the current ICAC Act.
Thank you. And last question from me for this clause. Chief Minister, are staff members of the Auditor General's office homes also included under this section?
So general premises is defined as you go further on in that clause 46. It means premises occupied by the Auditor General, members of the Auditor General's staff, or the Auditor General's office in connection with the performance of official functions. So on official matters.
So if they're working from home, that would fall under that duty. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, no further questions. Question is that clause 46 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Clause 47, Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. I move, Opposition Leader and members opposite, would you like me to move both and then we can ask? That'd be fine?
Yep.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 7 in Schedule 046 GOV to clause 47.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
Those opinions say aye, to the contrary no.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 8 in Schedule 046 GOV to clause 47.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those opinions say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Okay, with those two amendments, the question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Can I
Those
ask
opinions
questions
say
here,
aye.
Mr Chair?
The question now is that the clause stand as amended.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. You're doing well with, only a quarter of the way through or something. Thank you. Chief Minister, the process for appointing an acting ICAC, can you please provide that detail?
59, that one.
Oh, okay.
We're on 47, which is further powers of the inspector.
Does the inspector appoint the acting ICAC?
Yes.
But I've got to ask you, what one again was it? 59. Okay, yep. Sorry, more questions.
Yep,
Thank you. Why would if there is a public officer appointed,
As the acting ICAC.
the acting ICAC,
Yeah.
again, conflicts of interest, I'm assuming there'll be a set criteria around that role to manage it.
Yes, correct. So the acting commissioner has to follow all of the same processes as the commissioner would, because they just stand in those shoes, right? So everything applies. And the inspector is the person responsible for advising on conflict management and what happens from that point of being advised about the conflict.
Thank you. And can I ask why the Integrity and Ethics Commissioner wouldn't then undertake the investigation?
Because that could be their conflict. Oh, the inspector. Yeah, okay. Because the inspector doesn't have all of the same coercive type powers as the commissioner does. The inspector doesn't just inherently have those powers. So if they are required to be the acting commissioner, then they will need to assume those powers as well.
Okay. Thank you.
No further questions? Okay, so the question is that the clause 47 with the two amendments stand as amendment. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 48 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say... Oh, sorry, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, this relate to any person or is it just around public officials?
So the inspector, because they don't have the same powers as a commissioner, so the inspector only has that authority over the staff. So it couldn't be a member of the public, for example.
Thank you. And can those staff acquire legal representation?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. And does the Commissioner have these powers as well in regards to what the inspector holds when it comes to legislation?
You mean can the commissioner compel people to answer questions and all those things? Yeah, the under the ICAC Act, the powers of the commissioner are very significant, but they're not being changed by this clause.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no further questions? The question is that clause 48 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 49 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 50 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, can any person be required to produce documents or items to the inspector?
Yeah, it's the same. So just within his jurisdiction, which is the staff.
Is there an opportunity through that clarification you've just provided to have it in the Act, or is it just is it set out so it is only the staff?
Yeah, that is defined. It might not look like it in this point, but it is defined in there very clearly what the inspector's roles, powers and responsibilities are. So this is almost identical to what's in the ICAC Act. All we did was change a little bit of wording on clause 4 to reflect subsection 3.
No further questions? The question is that clause 50 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 51 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 52 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 9 in Schedule 046 GOV to clause 52.
The question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
Sorry.
Did I miss the question?
Yeah, you can ask questions.
Okay, thank you. Fine with the amendment. Just wanted to clarify, Chief Minister, does this relate to staff and contractors?
This is earlier you asked me about does the inspector have staff, and I said on a case by case basis, and we went through the criteria for the staff and those types of things. This is just assistance from those staff, not the staff of the commission. If that clarifies it.
So if someone was brought in to that role in the inspector's office, it would still cover them?
That is who it would cover.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And no, that's okay. The next one's fine.
No further questions. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question now is that the clause stand as amended.
Aye.
Question.
Sorry.
No, I'm looking for speakers, sorry. Okay.
We did it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I know. The question is that the clause stand as amended. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. We're getting there. The question is that clause 53 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 54 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Oh, yep.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I move Amendment 10 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 54.
The question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
No speakers? Right.
Question?
Yes.
Yeah,
Leader of the opposition, you can speak.
I'm getting better.
I'm waiting for
Making
you.
sure I don't miss it. Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, in regards to the penalty, if the inspector fails to disclose actual potential or perceived conflicts of interest, what falls on them as the penalty?
This is not that though. This is about. Oh, there's no. Yeah. If they didn't, well then it would be yeah. Yeah. So again, it requires that stringent conflict identification and management. If it wasn't, then it would be a conduct issue, like in the earlier example we used for the commissioner themselves.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Is there a set penalty around that if they fail to disclose?
There is a power to terminate the inspector, so I guess that would be an available option.
Thank you. And does an acting integrity officer have the same eligibility terms and conditions as the inspector?
Yeah, so that the eligibility for the integrity officer is separate and a little bit later on.
Okay. So the question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. No further questions. The question is that the clause stand as amended. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 55 stand as printed.
No.
Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, how is the inspector's use, communication or publication of protected information oversighted?
Yeah, this is straight from the ICAC Act.
So it doesn't change any of the protected information, it'll still have an oversight mechanism?
I think we changed the word exercise. It was a different word, and we just, the drafters said it's a better word to use the word exercise.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions? The question is that clause 55 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 56 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 11 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 56.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to. Are there any speakers? No speakers?
Aye.
So the question now is that the clause stand as amended.
Aye.
No speakers? Sorry, the script's a bit funny here. Yeah, the question is that the clause... Sorry. I thought we did that one. Yeah. So I'll just go back again. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of the opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Right. The question is that the clause stand as amended. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 57 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it.
It's been a very long...
We're all getting into it. I can sympathise. Okay. The question is that clause 58 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I move Amendment 12 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 58.
Right. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Chief Minister. In this clause, is there a preclusion of public officer being appointed even though they're precluded from being a commissioner? And is this consistent?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes, they can be a public officer because it's temporary.
Okay. No further questions? Member for Johnston.
So we're on 58?
We're on 58,
Yes,
correct.
thank you. Chief Minister, this is about all the acting integrity commissioners. I'm not. This might not be in the right clause. Sorry, but I know the McClintock report recommended that they be statutory appointments, assistant commissioners. Am I asking this in the right clause?
Yes. So I know what the confusion is, Member for Johnston, and it's completely understandable. So when we talk about the commissioners, that is the commissioner, the one Integrity and Ethics Commissioner, because they will be fulfilling the role of the Health Complaints Commissioner, the ICAC Commissioner. All of those different roles is one. So it's in the Act as separate because it has to pull it together. But this is not a reference to the assistant commissioners which sit underneath. So this is when wearing the hat of that commissioner as the Integrity and Ethics Commissioner.
Okay, so am I correct in understanding that there is no statutory authority for any commissioner, including any acting commissioners in this bill?
No. Yes. So acting commissioners and the commissioner is statutory. It's the assistant commissioners that is not.
Thank you. So acting commissioners are statutory in the bill? Yep, thank you.
Okay, no further questions. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. I'm just posing the question. The question now is that the clause stand as amended. Is there any questions for the questions? No? So now we're going to vote on it. The question is that the clause stand as amended. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. I think that's what people are trying to tell me to do. Okay.
Mr Deputy Speaker?
The clause is that clause 59 stands printed. Chief Minister.
So I move Amendment 13 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 59.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
No speakers. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question now is that the clause stand as amended.
Oh, sorry, Mr Deputy Speaker, I'll do the second amendment.
Yes, now we do that.
I move Amendment 14 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 59.
Okay, the question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
No speakers. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question now is that the clause stand as amended. Oh, sorry. Member for Guadjas. Oh, my apologies.
That's okay. I'm just filling in for the
Leader
of the Opposition for a moment. Thank you.
Chief... 59?
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
59,
Yes.
the
Yep.
amendments.
Chief Minister, how does the acting ICAC's interact with the inspector and vice versa?
Yep, so whenever there's an acting, it's the same, it's exactly the same. So if there's an acting, then they, all of the powers of the inspector apply to them as well. And all of the powers are vested in the acting, and therefore the inspector has their powers as well.
Okay, thank you. Does the inspector have the same powers in relation to an acting ICAC as the commissioner? Where is that dealt with in the legislation?
Sorry, so, and I may have caused that confusion, Member for Gorja. So this acting ICAC component is for when there is a conflict on a particular matter, there can be an acting ICAC for that particular matter only. Only. They can just deal with that one thing.
Okay, thank you, Chief Minister. Chief Minister, just wanting to understand what's the mechanism for communication or reporting to the public when that when there are acting ICAC commissioners?
Yeah, it's exactly the same as under the ICAC Act now.
Okay, so no changes, the same communication. Thank you.
No further questions? The question is that the clause stand as amended. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 60 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 15 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 60.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to. Any speakers?
Aye.
The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of that opinion say
No.
aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
Member Gorja.
Thank you. In relation to clause 60, Chief Minister, the question here, isn't this just effectively setting up another ICAC outside of the Integrity and Ethics Commissioner's office? Is this duplication?
Yeah, no, it's just for that specific matter where that conflict has been identified by the inspector.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. The question now is that the clause stand as amended.
Aye.
Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Right. The question is that clause 61 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 16 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 61.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Aye.
The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of the opinion say... I'll get a member for Gorja.
Thank you. Chief Minister, this may be the same response to the former question on clause 60. Again, isn't this just effectively doubling up or requiring the establishment of a separate information commissioner body full of acting information, commissioners particularly given the likelihood of conflicts of interest arising with the IEC given his or her broad sweeping functions and powers?
Yes, thank you, Member for Gorja. So it is the same. So 61 and 62 just relate to Acting Ombudsman, Acting Information Commissioner, so it covers off on all of the reform piece to bring them all in. But it's not duplication. It is there to deal with that conflict matter so that the Commissioner can continue to do all of the other work, and that piece of work is carved off and given to someone else who can manage it, complete it, and then that's the end of that process.
Thank you.
Any further questions? The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of the opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The question now is that the clause stand as amended. Those of the opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Clause
Are we on 62?
61. We've just done 61.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
we just
it's
finished
62,
61.
Yeah, we're about to go to 62.
Okay. Clause 62. The question is that clause 62 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I move Amendment 17 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 62.
Question is the amendment be agreed to. Any speakers?
Oh, yes, I was. Question?
Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I'm just double checking. We're on 62. Yes,
62.
thank you.
Yes.
Chief Minister, when it comes to the similar question to my colleague, is this a doubling up of the requirement that is established with the separate ombudsman, the function, and an acting ombudsman, and particularly the likelihood of conflicts of interest arising with the IEC, given his or her broad sweeping functions and powers?
Yes, thank you, Opposition Leader, for your question. So it is the same, these provisions are the same as the ones we just went through. It's for when a conflict has been raised with the inspector, and then someone else is appointed to do that specific piece of work. So that acting role is specific to that particular investigation.
And just double checking, did you move your amendment for this one?
I think you're asking...
Yes.
I did, but you're asking...
Oh, yeah.
We haven't
Sorry.
voted, yes.
Off when you did
We
the
moved, but
amendments.
we haven't voted on it.
Oh, perfect, thank you. That's it, that's my only
Okay.
question. Thank you.
Right. Okay, the question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those that have opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question now is that the clause stand as amended. Are there any speakers? No. The question is that the clause stand as amended. Those that have opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Look, just for clarification, I'm going to go through what's on my script so we all understand what I'm trying to do here, particularly when we've got the amendment. So the Chief Minister can introduce the amendment.
Yep.
Then the question is that the amendment be agreed to. People get an opportunity to talk about that.
Yep.
Okay? Then we go for a vote on it. The question is that the amendment be agreed to where we vote yes or no.
Yep.
Then the question posed is that the question now is that the clause stand as amended. People may want to speak to that. Then we go to vote on the same question again. The question is that clause stand as amended, we vote aye or no. So if it sounds repetitive, that's what I'm following. And I know we've been doing some shortcuts there, but it is confusing a lot of people, including myself at times.
We're trying to help be efficient.
So I just thought I'd read that out so everyone, so they understand. So if you hear me say the same thing a couple of times,
The way we're doing it after.
and I don't want to talk about when we've got 2 or 3 amendments. That's the last thing.
That's fine.
Okay, so let's try and do this through the same process. Clause 63. The question is that clause 63 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 18 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 63.
The question is the amendment be agreed to. Are there any speakers? No speakers. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. I now pose the question that the clause stand as amended. Are there any speakers? No? The question is that the...
There is, Mr Deputy.
Oh, member for Johnston. Sorry, you did.
I'm going to ask whether or not I can ask. I'm unclear still about an answer to the previous clause. All the things under the acting commissioners, and my question is, where do I ask about the assistant commissioners? Because I understood that you said that they are statutory appointed, but I can't see that reflected anywhere in the Act.
No, I said that acting is statutory, so the acting and the commissioner themselves, the assistants are not.
The assistants are not, thank you.
Okay. So,
Thank
question...
you. Thanks for
Any further questions? No? So the question is that the clause stand as amended. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 64 stand as printed.
No.
Chief Minister.
Oh, sorry.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 19 in Schedule 046 GOV to Clause 64.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to. Are there any speakers? No? Leader of the Opposition, you do want to speak?
Sorry, is the amendment agreed to? That's the bit that I can ask a question.
Well, you can
I
decide
wrote
whether
it
you
down
want to
because I don't want to confuse while we're all getting it's a lot of clauses.
There's a couple of places you can ask the question. You can ask it when we first put the amendment, to discuss the amendment possibly.
Yep.
And
Yes,
then
I'll
when
do
I
it
put
now.
the agreed
Yep.
bit, you can talk about that.
I'll do it now. Thank you. Chief Minister, does this clause apply to all acting ICACs and acting ombudsmen and acting information officers?
Correct.
Thank you. And with this process, I heard your answer to the member Goyja, will this be only when there's an acting for one complaint?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. And Chief Minister, how will the cost of the ICAC and Ombudsman and information officers be managed when there may be a full-time role, an acting role, if there's a particular individual complaint incident that needs to be dealt with separately, and will this conflate some of the budget?
Yes, thank you, Opposition Leader. So this is a process that sorry, I'll start again. Those agencies already have to outsource, so it is just another way of doing it that brings it in line with the legislation. Yeah. It's a much more transparent way of doing it rather than just having them go off and contract someone to do it.
Thank you. And sort of at the back of that answer, will the IEC be expected to manage all of these acting appointments within the budget, or would they be similar to, say, the normal budget process of having to ask for special purpose money?
It's normal, and I'll give you the example. The Commissioner would have done it but for the conflict. So it's work already on their desk that they have decided needs to be done. It's just that particular person can't do the work. So it's not additional, I suppose, because it's work they were going to do. It just can't be that person. So there's a proper process to work out who that person could be and what powers they have, and then they go and do that work, complete the work, and then that is resolved.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I guess the point is just checking that there won't be work that is not completed because of budget pressures and measures, that if they're out of budget, or over budget I should say, if the Commissioner is over budget, that they then don't have to drop a complaint because they're paying for an extra position just for that one case.
No, this is not about budget. This is just having a more transparent way of them appointing the acting integrity officer.
Further questions? Okay. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. I pose the question now that the clause stand as amended. Are there any speakers? No. We now vote. The question is that the clause stand as amended. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Okay. Now, I won't go that way. The question is that clause 65 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 66 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you. Through the Chair, Chief Minister, does this cover off on all the acting ICACs and ombudsmen and information officers?
Yes, and this is how it is in the ICAC Act.
Thank you.
Right. Question is that clause 66 stands printed.
I should say it very clearly says, though, that this section does not apply in relation to the inspector.
Okay, I'll go again. Question is that clause 66 stands printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 67 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, can you explain ineffective appointment or one of the technical defects?
So this is a current provision in the ICAC Act, and it could be like a clerical error or a typo.
And Chief Minister, where there is anything in the legislation about remedying any of those technical defects or ineffective appointments, where would you point me to that?
Yeah, so for example, if the certificate of appointment or something like that had the name spelt wrong, it wouldn't invalidate the appointment. It's just that kind of stuff.
Yep. Thank you.
No further questions? Question is that clause 67 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 68 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, what is meant by certain registers?
Are we on 68?
Yeah.
On clause 68, correct.
Yep, so the administrator may make regulations. A regulation may provide for one or more registers to be kept by the commissioner or the inspector. It's just a standard provision.
And can I just check who would be compiling or keeping those registers? Is that through the IEC?
There isn't one at the moment, but there could be into the future.
Thank you. And it says that it'll be kept by the commissioner or the inspector. I don't want to do the hypotheticals, but if it was the inspector about the commissioner, I'm assuming the register would be kept in the inspector's office to have separation.
Yeah, it would just be an operational matter about where it's
For the inspector role, and they can keep it, but they want to. Okay, thank you. Oh, last one. Would their registers be made public? If they exist.
Yes, regulations are public. Or if there were any, they would be public.
No further questions? Question is that clause 68 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 69 stand as printed. No questions? Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Question is that clause 70 stand as printed.
No.
Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Can they have been a public officer of some kind within the 12-month period?
No, that's the inspector. No. No, the inspector can't have been a public officer.
Yep, that bumps out number 2. Yep, I'm done for that one. Thank you.
Question is that clause 70 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 71 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, what is the decision making for old matters to be reopened?
That's just a discretion that the inspector has.
So if something was, say, brought to the attention of the inspector, they may choose to reopen.
Yeah, it's completely within their discretionary power to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No further questions. Question is that clause 71 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 72 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, when we're talking about the new IEC Commissioner in the first instance, why would they go to the new one?
Sorry, say that again.
Why wouldn't they just go to the new IEC Commissioner in the first instance rather than the ICAC?
No, they will be. Yeah, Yes, so as things, and these are all the transitional moving pieces to get this to come together. So if the ICAC Commissioner was investigating the Ombudsman, for example, that would not be appropriate to then come under, so that would go to the Inspector.
Thank you. Can they go straight to the Inspector if the ICAC was investigating?
Well, yeah, they will go straight. Yeah, they won't come via they'll go
Okay.
around.
And would it only relate to complaints or investigations in relation to the IEC related entities?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. And so it wouldn't be broader than that at all?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Question is the clause 72 standards printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is the clause 73 standards printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, how will conflicts or disclosures be managed here? Like example for the ICAC staff, if they'll now be colleagues with the IEC related entities and perhaps sharing officers and resources?
Because the inspector will do it. Yeah. That won't have an implication because the inspector will conduct the investigation, and we talked about this before. The inspector doesn't have any. They're not the same people, so if the inspector needed staff, they would not be those staff.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Question is the clause 73 standards printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is the clause 74 standards printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, what is the volume of continuing complaints that the inspector will be dealing with, and how will the inspector get on with any of the new workload?
Yeah, they're completely independent.
So no impact on their workload?
We don't have visibility of that.
So just the inspector would have that
Well, the
information?
inspector deals with the complaints. I don't know about them.
Okay. And yeah, to just reiterate, they'll have to deal with that workload if they get a volume of complaints versus if they got no complaints.
Yeah, exactly. So it's on that as required basis.
Thank you.
No further questions. Questions is the clause 74 standards printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Question is the clause 75 standards printed. No questions? Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Question is the clause 76 standards printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you. Chief Minister, when will it likely commence?
So the only thing that commences, once the bill's been assented to, is the transitional provisions to allow the people holding those current roles to continue to do that work. So it won't commence until after we have a commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions? Question is the clause 76 standards printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is the clause 77 standards printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, when is the current Auditor General's contract finishing?
September 2029.
Thank you.
No further questions? Question is the clause 77 standards printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
Is it the wish of the Assembly that clauses 78 through to 90 be considered together? There being no objection, it is so ordered. The question is that clauses 78 to 90 standards printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 90 standards printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, 91.
91, yep.
Apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On what basis has the decision been made to give the inspector the power to deal with complaints about the Auditor General, given that the Auditor General has a very different function to other integrity bodies and is currently oversighted by us here in the Legislative Assembly and also the Public Accounts Committee?
Yeah, the substantive component of this we've already talked about previously. all this does is allow that evaluation to take place, but the substantive component was in those previous sections where we talked about evaluation around the administrative governance type matters, not the technical work that the Auditor General does.
And Chief Minister, what consultation has been done into relation to this clause?
Yes, so all of the bill was consulted on with all of the integrity, the current integrity officers, if I could call it that.
Thank you. And how does this correlate to oversight arrangements for the Auditor General in other jurisdictions in Australia?
Yeah, that's not part of the clause. That's the decision that's been taken. And we've already discussed at great length where that line is on what can and can't be done and how the Auditor General sits outside.
Thank you. And just to explain, the reason why I asked that is obviously we want to try and make sure we're the most contemporary and modernised and up to date when we're creating new legislation, which is obviously before the House. So just wanting to see what comparison the Northern Territory had in that relation to that clause.
Any further questions? Question is that clause 91 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
Leader of the opposition, do you have any questions up until 111? Oh, sorry. Yeah, maybe you do. Yeah, okay. Okay. The question is that clause 92 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you. Chair, Chief Minister, who makes the decision on suspending or terminating the appointment of the Auditor General?
The Administrator.
Thank you. And is there an example of what grounds or a criteria of what grounds the Administrator could do that?
Yeah, it's really clearly set out in that section. So if the Auditor General becomes physically or mentally incapable of satisfactorily performing the duties, if they engage in corrupt conduct, or if they engage in paid employment outside of the duties of office, or absenteeism from duty for certain periods of time, misbehaviour and incompetence.
Thank you, Chief Minister. And would it only be the act of the Administrator for that termination of appointment, or would it go to the PAC, Public Accounts Committee or the Legislative Assembly for final decision, or would it sit just purely with the Administrator?
Yeah. This is actually how it is in the Audit Act. So we're not changing anything here.
Question is that clause 92 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no. Aye. The ayes have it. Question is that clause 93 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The question is that clause 94 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, what is the basis for an annual review when the standard is 5 years?
So that was recommended in the report, and currently ours is every 3 years, not every 5 years, and so it would be annual instead.
And is there a particular reason, like how has that been recommended?
I guess it's just it's like an additional transparency and scrutiny mechanism to have it annually. The report, well, the reason they recommended it must be because 3 years was too long.
Okay, no further questions. The question is that clause 94 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Question is that clause 95 stand as printed. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, who decides on the external auditor?
Is that 95?
I hope so.
Yeah. The administrator appoints the external auditor.
Thank you. And do they go through a process of vetting?
Yeah, that's a procurement process.
Thank you.
No further questions? Question is that clause 95 stand as printed. Those of the opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Is it the wish of the Assembly that clauses 96 to 102 be considered together? There being no objection, it is so ordered. The question is that clauses 96 to 102 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 103 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, exactly what is the Chief Executive Officer's role across the Commission?
Yeah, so their functions come under PSEMA, which is obviously detailed in that Act. So a CEO is, doing all of the HR, managing the staff, paying the bills, just making sure that the office is functioning efficiently and, dealing with all of the HR components, that type of stuff.
Thank you. And how will the separation of powers between the Commissioner and the Chief Executive Officer work in practice?
Yeah, it's just completely different roles. So how it currently is they have to be the one person. It's obviously a very different skill set to be a commissioner versus being someone to manage the day-to-day operations of an agency and, of course, the staff. Very different functions. So this separates those out really clearly so that the commissioner can focus on that investigation work and not have to worry about whether Mary called in sick or did Jane pay the power bill or any of those other types of things.
Any further questions? The question is that clause 103 stand as printed. Those that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 104 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, how can Territorians have assurance that the CEO won't be influencing how the Commissioner and perhaps other staff in the Commission, particularly those acting Commissioner role, Assistant Commissioner roles, perform their function given they're able to give directions to staff under the PSEMA?
Yeah, there is no ability to do that because the PSEMA functions are different to the integrity functions, and so there's no overlap there.
Thank you. And who is the boss of the staff members? Is the CEO, or can the Commissioner direct those staff members too?
Yeah. So sort of split it out as depending on what the function is. So if the Commissioner is giving a task to do and it's an integrity function, then it's the Commissioner. If it's please fill out your timesheet, then it's the CEO. It just depends on the task being asked.
Thank you. Is there any protection for staff if there's conflicting directions from the Commissioner and the CEO for that one staff member, or perhaps group of staff members?
Yeah. It's hard to think that there would be a situation because the roles are just so fundamentally different. Yeah, it really shouldn't happen.
Thank you. And is there any mechanisms to prevent the CEO from influencing the Commission functions if the CEO is the one to sign off on the budget, engaging in consultants or perhaps external services?
Yeah, the whole point is to give the Commissioner better support so that they're not the one doing everything, but they have someone who can make sure it's all working really well. So if the Commissioner needs, external lawyers or investigators, it will be the CEO's job, because their whole job is to support the Commissioner to go off and make that happen. So it's one aspiration for that agency. Like, they're on the same team in terms of what they're trying to achieve. It's just they have different functions to do that.
Thank you, Chief Minister. And I guess I make the point thinking that in a traditional sense, a CEO manages the budget and a department and the staff, and then if they're hamstrung with that focus, then would it then leave the Commission exposed of restriction on what budget they may use if they've requested an external service to perform their function or complete their investigation, but the CEO, do you know what I mean? Like, then the CEO
I know what you mean.
That's going to cost too much, then we're not going to do it.
But that
Is
can't...
there a process to make sure that that doesn't happen, that there's not a
it's
one
about
or the other?
obviously managing the priorities, which is led by the Commissioner.
Yeah, so ultimately the Commissioner asks and requests for those services, those resources. They would get that from the CEO regardless of the budget. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? The question is that clause 104 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Question is that clause 105 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no. Aye. The ayes have it. The question is that clause 106 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, what provisions and terms and conditions of appointment apply to the Assistant Commissioners?
Yes, the Assistant Commissioners aren't in the legislation. So that we've dealt with the acting and the Commissioner, but the Assistant Commissioners aren't in the legislation. Because they're PSEMA.
Yeah, I was going to say, will there be another process of being able to show? Yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
So the question is that clause 106 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no. Aye. The ayes have it. Is it the wish of the Assembly that clauses 107 through to 110 be considered together? There being no objection, it is so ordered. The question is that clauses 107 to 110 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. The question is that clauses,
111.
Oh, the question is that clause 111 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Minister, what assurances can Territorians have around the separation of powers for decision making, again, between the CEO, who will have a specific duty in the Commission, and the Commissioner, who will have a series of roles and responsibilities and functions to perform?
Yeah, it's really the same question, Opposition Leader, but it's just fundamentally different functions, and there is no overlap there. They're same team, different jobs.
Any further questions? Question is that clause 111 stand as printed. Those are those. Sorry, I'm getting confused now myself. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 112 stand as printed. Chief Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move Amendment 20 in Schedule 046 GOV to clause 112.
Question is that the amendment be agreed to. Are there any speakers? No. The question is that the amendment be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. The question now is that the clause stand as amended. Are there any other speakers? Leader of the Opposition? No. Okay. The question is that the clause stand as amended. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it.
Is 117.
That's good. Is it the wish of the Assembly that clauses 113 to 116 be considered together? There being no objection, it is so ordered. The question is that clauses 113 to 116 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 117 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, are you able to explain how staff members will be expected to take directions from both the Commissioner and the CEO? I know this is similar to a previous question, bear with me, in regards to the practice and staff positioning of their roles and duties, particularly if they are working in the different don't want to say subcommissions.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, the different assistant commissioner support roles.
Yep. So again, just for clarity, there's there's a CEO to run the agency and the team, and then there's the commission to do the investigative control of all of that investigative work, and so those channels would just come down to the staff as you would expect.
No further questions? Question is that clause 117 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Is it the wish of the Assembly that clauses 118 through to clause 130 be considered together? There being no objection, it is so ordered. The question is that clauses 118 through to 130 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 131 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, in regards to your earlier comment that there's not Assistant Commissioner roles inserted in the legislation, can you explain how then the delegation for those roles would exist?
Yeah, so the commissioner will really have control of what that structure looks like and then who's doing what. So it really is important. That's why it won't commence until we have the commissioner, because the commissioner needs to make sure that the agency is fit for purpose to deliver on all of those integrity functions and outcomes, and continue to maintain that service delivery right across the spectrum.
Thank you. And further to that, Chief Minister, if an Assistant Commissioner then has a complaint against them, where would that be directed to?
To the CEO or to the inspector? To the inspector.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions. The question is that clause 131 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 132 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 133 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The question is that clause 134 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Chief Minister, can you explain why this is excluded?
This is to make sure that the inspector can't meddle in the work that they're doing. Like, it's not, the inspector can't just come along and say, oh, let me have a look at that one. What are you doing there? And, that kind of thing. It's to make sure there's a proper process.
Thank you.
No further questions? Question is that clause 134 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 135 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Question is that clause 136 stand as printed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Minister, how will this work in practice and how can Territorians be assured that their confidentiality will be maintained through this transition and any highly sensitive material that will be delegated out through the different functions into the one commission?
So that clause is specifically to deal with that, to make sure that the integrity of that information is kept confidential.
Thank you. And Chief Minister, would there be any penalties applied if that material wasn't kept confidential?
Wow. Yeah. That again would be a conduct issue. If someone, you know, yeah. If they got the file and was like, here, would you like to see this file? Lady walking past me? Yeah. Or, you know, any breach like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Just to confirm, because there'll be that transition period, but each of the responsible acts will still stay intact unless there's any changes from this.
Across the, yeah.
Legislation.
Yeah, that's right. So they will still sort of stay quarantined in their existing roles.
Yeah. So just making sure, because it's clear, and of course our public service are very professional, but that no acts will fall away under this. It'll combine them as opposed to anything going out as a gap.
Yep, correct.
Thank you.
Okay. The question is that clause 136 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, the contrary no. I think the ayes have it. Is it the wish of the Assembly that clauses 137 through to 151 be considered together? There's been no objection. It is so ordered. The question is that clauses 137 to 151 stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. I think the ayes have it. The question is that the schedules stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. Is it the wish of the Assembly that the remainder of the bill be taken together? There being no objection, it is so ordered. The question is that the remainder of the bill stand as printed. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. I think the ayes have it. The question is that the bill be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. I think the ayes have it. No?
The question is that the bill be now read a third time. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. Aye. Oh, sorry.
I think that's the Chief Minister's line.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, just jumping the gun there.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill now be read a third time.
The question is that the bill be now read a third time. Those of that opinion say aye, to the contrary no. I think the ayes have it.